4:59. So thank you for being here. And it's 5 o'clock. All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Alameda City Council meeting. Tonight is Tuesday, January 20th, 2026. And I would like to call this meeting to order. This is the special City Council meeting. We're about to go into closed session. Madam Clerk, Laura Weisiger, would you please call the roll?
Council members Bowler. Here. Daysog.
Here.
Pryor.
Here.
Mayor Ezzy Ashcraft.
Here.
Board President and hopefully Council Member Jensen will be here shortly.
Thank you. So next we go to the consent calendar. These are, and this is a consent calendar for the closed session. These are routine items that will be approved by one motion unless removed by council members. Madam Clerk, we just have one item on the consent calendar. Could you introduce that, please?
Yeah, that is the item to designate negotiators for the real property that you're negotiating on known as Encinal Terminals. So that goes with item 4C.
Okay, and that is who again that we're approving?
You're approving interim city manager, base reuse and economic development director, planning and building and transportation director, base reuse manager, special counsel, deputy city attorney.
Thank you for that. And then I need a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. Councilmember Daysog, was that nodding of the head a motion?
So move.
Yeah, right. Moved and seconded. See how we do it so quickly. It's been moved by Councilmember Daysog, seconded by Councilmember Bowler. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
That passes with 4-0. And so, Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment on the closed session?
We do not.
All right, so then we are about to adjourn into closed session to hear the following three items that I'd like to ask the clerk to please introduce.
4A is conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The city negotiators are the interim city manager, human resources director, Jack Hughes from Liebert Cassidy Whitmore, and the assistant city attorney. The employee organizations are the International Association of Firefighters Local 689 and Alameda Fire Chiefs Association. Under negotiation are salaries, employee benefits, and terms of employment. 4B is conference with legal counsel, potential litigation, potential initiation of litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, subsection D4. Number of cases is 1, with the city initiating legal action as plaintiff. The potential defendant is Astra Space, Inc. 4C is conference with real property negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8. Property is assessor parcel number 72-382-9. City negotiators are the interim city manager, base reuse and economic development director, base reuse manager, planning, building, transportation director, and special counsel and deputy city attorney. Negotiating parties are the City of Alameda and Bayview Landing and sublease R Capital. Under negotiation are price and terms of lease.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And with that, we will adjourn into closed session. Could I have all the staff involved on item 4A to please join us in room 391? All right, everyone, we are back. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City Council meeting. This is the City of Alameda City Council meeting for Tuesday, January 20th, 2026. Council has, I'm catching my breath, has just returned from closed session, and I'm going to ask our clerk, Laura Weisinger, to please report out any actions that were taken in closed session. Madam Clerk.
Regarding item 4A, which was labor negotiations, staff provided information and council provided direction. 2 votes were taken, both carried by 4-1 with Councilmember Daysog voting no. Regarding 4B, which was potential litigation, staff provided information and council provided direction, which also carried by 4-1 with Councilmember Jensen voting no. And regarding 4C, which was real property negotiation, staff provided information and council provided direction, which carried by 5 ayes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and with that, I will adjourn the special council meeting for closed session, and I will call to order the regular council meeting. Madam Clerk, first we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance, actually, and I've asked Vice Mayor Michelle Pryor to please lead us in the pledge.
Please rise if you can. Ready to go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Spoler.
Here.
Daysog.
Here.
Jensen.
Here.
Pryor.
Here.
Mayor Ezzy Ashcraft.
Here.
5 present.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, agenda changes. So as I look out into the chambers, I do see young people. We love all our participants, but young people have bedtimes. Older people should too, but young people, they need to get to school and whatnot. You heard it from the mayor. So what I would like to do is I'm going to move up after we get through the consent calendar, the consent calendar, then I'm going to move up to after item 7A, because we have adoption of a resolution appointing a commission member. But after 7A and before 7B, I would like to call item 10A, because as I understand it, we have some speaker slips from young people. Is that correct?
They submitted for oral communications, not agenda, but I think some of their families submitted for that item, so.
Let me just have a little clarification by show of hands. If you're a young person, which is to say 18 years or younger, I'm not checking IDs, but I can kind of tell. If you're a young person and you're here to speak, are you here to speak on oral communication, which means an item that's not even on the agenda, or are you here to speak on item 10A, which has to do with McCartney Road and some street work? So first of all, here to talk about 18 and under, talking about McCartney Way and street work, raise your hand. I am not under 18, but raise your hand. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, under 18. This is the honor system. Okay, so maybe, and then the others, under 18s, are here just to speak on other items. Oh, well, that's okay. We can have our cake and eat it too, because I think we'll wrap up our young people and near the top of the agenda. All good. Okay, so here's what we're doing. Just stay with it. Whoever's here for oral communication, non-agenda item, that's one of the first things that comes up. And then we are going to move up 10A instead of being way at the end of the agenda. We're going to move it up after 7A, right, Madam Clerk?
Yes, that's what you said.
Well, we got through that. Okay, we have no proclamations or special orders of the day. So then we will move on to oral communications, and this is when speakers may address the council about matters that are not on the agenda. And we take 15 minutes now at the top of the agenda. The clerk will tell you how much time you have. It depends on how many speakers we have. And then we have another oral communication non-agenda item at the end of the regular agenda. So, Madam Clerk, how many speakers do we have under item 4?
We have 7, so they'll get 2 minutes each. And the first one is Alan Tubbs, then Cora Piper, and then Jacob Moore Motis.
Okay, all right. Well, Alan Tubbs is over 18, but that's okay. We welcome him too. Hello. Well, and because I know he's a grandfather, so he's got little ones, right? 4.
Okay, is this on? So I just want to
Yes.
bring something to the council's information. I'm a volunteer at the Alameda Naval Air Museum out at Alameda Point. It was formed in 1996 after the base closed. Lots of support from local government, Senator Dianne Feinstein and others. What I want to bring to your attention is we're about in a world of hurt. COVID kind of took out a lot of our visitors that paid as they came in. We've currently had a lot of issues with the building that you own in maintenance, paint peeling, sewer lines that we've had to replace out of donation dollars that people donate to keep the museum going. So I'm looking for help from the city and how to handle this. I'm fearful. I am the youngest volunteer there, by the way. I'm fearful that one day we may lose the museum. We currently pay $700 a month to the city for common area maintenance, which it doesn't benefit us at all. So we're looking for relief from that, and we're looking for relief for a lease. One of the things that really hurt us bad is last year one of the fire main sprinklers pipes inside the building just went off and broke on its own while we were closed and flooded. We had to pay that get fixed. We had insurance come in. It cost the museum about $10,000 of our own money, plus the insurance paid another $30,000. And right after that, the insurance company turned around and canceled us. Without insurance, we cannot be open, so we have not been open since mid-October, trying to find insurance in the State's pretty hard. Our premium went from $600 a month to $38,000 a year. With the little amount of donations that we receive and people that come to the door, we can't afford to stay open. The $700 a month that we pay to the city for common area maintenance actually exceeds what we take in at the door. Yet we provide a valuable service for the city. We have volunteers that come from the local schools, help out in the library, prepare and maintain all the books and the study and the history of why NAS Alameda is here. It's built in 1942. Here we are, 2025.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you. Our next speaker.
Cora Piper, then Jacob Moore Mortis.
Hello, Ms. Piper. And for all the speakers, bring that microphone down. It's very flexible. You can be gentle with it. Bring it to where you need it. Yeah, that looks perfect. Hello.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor Ashcraft and City Council members. I'm Cora Piper, a 4th grader at Bay Farm School on Ogdenball Way. I absolutely love riding my bike to school, except when it's cold. We ride on the road sometimes because we went to a bike camp and know how to do it safely so we can get to our friend's house and be safe and not die. But we don't want cars to make everything unsafe for us. I want to be able to do things independently and safely. I want to be able to ride my bike to school safely, ride to Safeway safely, and ride to my best friend's house near High Street safely. But my parents will not be able to take me all the time. Driving is also impacting both children and the planet. Driving causes pollution, which is bad for children's lungs. Electric cars are also a waste of electricity, and their batteries require a lot of mining. The cars are super heavy, which is more dangerous to kids when or if they hit the child. The car could also hit the road, making a pothole, and any children could slip or on their bike and injure themselves. I also think that the wooden bridge for bikes to ride on is lousy and unsafe. And I ask you very politely to make it better for us to ride on when I and everyone else who lives on Bay Farm Island goes to middle school. Thank you for making the bike paths safer for everyone.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Jacob Moore Mortis, and then Lisa Roach.
Okay. Welcome. Welcome, Speaker Moore Mortis. And again, same advice. Make that microphone yours. Hi there.
I am Jacob Moore Matisse, and I like to bike or walk to places, such as like if I want to go get groceries at Safeway, and the new changes that made it safer for bikers was helpful, and it's very good to be able to bike places safely.
Thank you so much, and for being a biker. Our next speaker.
Lisa Roach, then Josephina Renaud.
Hello.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Liesl Roach, and I'm a 7th grader here in Alameda. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I ride my bike everywhere, to school, to ballet, around Bay Farm for my dog walking job. Biking gives me independence and helps me stay healthy, but I don't just ride for fun. I ride because I have to, and that means I spend a lot of time on our streets. Every time I have to go to the main island, I have to ride over the insufferably bumpy bridge. And it's very difficult for non-accessible people to traverse. And I would just like you to resurface it as soon as possible. Additionally, there have been times when drivers haven't seen me, gone too fast, or pulled into the bike lane, and I have had near misses that made me think, what if next time isn't just a near miss? I don't want to stop biking. I just want to be safe when I do it. You've already approved projects that will make streets safer for people like me. Projects that include better bike lanes, traffic calming, and safer crossings so bikers don't have to fear the road just to get where they need to go. These kinds of improvements reduce crashes and help all of us get around safely. Please don't delay the bike and safety projects that have already been approved. Delay means more kids, parents, and neighbors are riding and walking in unsafe conditions while waiting for changes that could prevent harm. We all deserve safe streets. I love riding my bike, and I want to keep doing it, not just for freedom and independence, but without fear. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Josephina Renaud, and then Josh Altieri.
Hello.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Josephina Renaud, and I am a 9th grader at the nearby Encinal Junior Senior High School. Today, I would like to speak about the importance of implementing stronger measures to ensure cars slow down in school zones. Let me share a personal experience to you. One morning, while I was walking to school, I had to stop and wait for the crossing guard to let me cross the road, as I do every single day. As she stepped forward and held up her sign, a car drove straight past her without stopping. It came so close that it almost hit her and me. In that moment, I wasn't just scared for myself, but I was also scared for the person who shows up every single day to protect students like me. Crossing guards give their time to keep children safe. Ignoring them isn't just breaking the rules, it's disrespectful and dangerous. When drivers speed through school zones, they aren't just risking a ticket, they're risking someone's life. School areas are filled with students who may be distracted, tired, or simply just trusting adults will keep them safe. Enforcing slower driving speeds in these areas would greatly reduce the risk of serious accidents and help prevent situations like the one I witnessed. For the sake of my classmates, my school staff, and the crossing guards who work to protect us, I ask that stronger measures be taken to ensure cars slow down in school zones. This small change could make a huge difference. Thank you for listening and for helping keep our community safe.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Josh Altieri.
Welcome, Speaker Altieri, who I have it on good authority is over 18, but hi.
Good evening, council members. Thank you for your time and service. My name is Josh Altieri. I'm the Community Relations Manager at the Housing Authority City of Alameda. Just wanted to share a couple updates. Last year, the Housing Authority celebrated its 85th anniversary because the City Council passed a resolution creating the Housing Authority on August 8th, 1940. So we're want to take an opportunity at the beginning of year 86 to acknowledge and recognize the partnership and the support from the city throughout the years, because without it, we couldn't create affordable housing solutions here on the island. So thank you so much. To get a sense of what that looks like today, we have over 1,800 voucher holders. We partner with over 400 private market landlords. They participate in our Housing Choice Voucher Program. And then we have, roughly a little over 3,000 City of Alameda residents in voucher households across the island. So beyond that, we try to layer on social services, and I wanted to highlight a couple of city partnerships that benefit our housing program participants. One, Alameda Rec and Parks has been out to our senior properties, all 4 senior properties. The Mastic Senior Center staff have tabled, educated our senior residents on all the programs and services at Mastic. We have Rec and Parks mobile recreation unit at our Esperanza, which is our largest family property. Instead of coming twice a month, they're now coming 4 times a month, which is great. We thank them for the partnership. And then also working alongside Public Works Department, the Zero Waste Program. They visited 11 properties to date. They're passing out recycle totes, compost bins, and educational materials. And it's resulted in obviously reducing waste is the most important, but that's also resulted in a property operations savings of about $65,000, which we can focus on our more programs and services. And then lastly, I just wanted to touch on, we're going to be opening property-specific wait lists for 2 properties in the coming months. One is Rosefield Village, and one is Everett Commons. More information can be found at AHA Group, www.ahagroup.click. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker?
That was our last speaker.
Okay. Did we get through all of them?
Yes.
Yay, very good. And thank you to all the speakers, especially the kids. You did very well. Thank you so much. So with that, we move on to the consent calendar. These are routine items that will be approved by one motion unless council members remove items for discussion. Any items removed from the consent calendar will be heard at the end of the regular agenda items. And council members may speak for up to 3 minutes on the consent calendar. So first off, are there any consent calendar items council wants to pull? But remember, you don't have to pull an item if you just want to ask a clarifying question on it. Any questions on consent calendar, council, Vice Mayor Pryor?
Not pulling it, just questions.
Oh, sure, question. Which item?
5H.
5H is the, Madam Clerk, do you want to read what 5H is?
5H is final passage of the ordinance for the
Oh, yeah.
CSI mini storage.
That we did last.
Oh, wait,
This is just a
wait,
second,
gosh,
maybe a
darn it.
different one?
Yes.
Okay, take a minute. Anybody else? Because that's just the second reading. Councilmember Jensen,
I
question?
would like to ask some questions about 5D.
Okay, and Madam Clerk, can you write, well, I'll come back to you, Vice Mayor, but can you introduce 5D to us, Madam Clerk? Just
Sure. 5D is surplus lands act properties.
right.
declaring.
Okay, all right. And who do we have? Who do we have coming up for that? Okay, Walker Toma with the pen in his mouth, looking very official. Come on up. Yeah, don't run with that in your mouth. I'm going into mother mode. And my twins are 34, just for the record. You never get out of mother mode. Hi. Want to introduce yourself? And Councilmember Jensen maybe has some questions on 5D.
5D. Okay. Hi, I'm Walker Toma. I'm Community Development Manager with the Base Reuse and Economic Development Department.
Thank you. And thank you for bringing this forward. I have kind of a general question, and it's in the report, but I just would like to hear it, and so I can add a follow-up. Why is it necessary that we take this action right now?
Sorry, 5D is the Surplus Lands
Right.
Act? Okay. Yeah. So we got direction from the city attorney that based on the way that the Surplus Lands Act is written, prior to engaging in any kind of negotiation, that we should ask the city council to consider exempting land as exempt surplus. So we are taking action, and staff is bringing forth a number of properties to have council pass a resolution to have them be exempt surplus before we are to enter into any kind of negotiations for a long-term lease or a sale.
And so I understand, and that's a, thank you for that answer. Since these properties have been part of were conveyed to the city in 2012, why has it taken so long to ask for this exchange?
I think there have been recent changes in the law itself, and so there were a number of resolutions that were brought to council several years ago that covered certain properties, but it wasn't done in a kind of holistic manner, and so we're kind of redoing some of those earlier efforts as well as including additional properties so that we are kind of covering all of our bases so that we can enter into negotiations on numerous properties and be flexible and opportunistic.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Please,
just
City
add
Attorney
to-
Eben Shen. Yes.
Council member, just to add, I agree with everything Mr. Toma has said. I just wanted to share a little more information, especially with respect to your second question, that the Surplus Lands Act changed substantially in 2019, which placed greater burdens on the city to comply by surplusing the property before engaging in negotiations. And with respect to timing, our advice has been that we don't surplus property until we're really ready to engage in negotiations so that our surplusing declarations do not become stale. This is why I think staff is bringing them to you as you're ready to engage in pre-negotiations.
Great, and that's very helpful. And my last question is with regard to another state law, which is called the California Environmental Quality Act. Is this, it says in the staff report that this is not necessarily to be addressed under the CEQA, so can you address that?
Sure, I'm happy to, Madam Mayor and council
Please,
members. So
please
this
do.
is the first step of the disposition process. The city will engage, if the council adopts this resolution, staff will engage in preliminary discussions. Only when there is a concrete project in front of you would we ask the council to conduct more in-depth CEQA review, and therefore we do stand by staff's recommendation that this is there's no CEQA implications for this action at this time.
Thank you. Thank you for the responses.
Thank you, Mr. Toma. Vice Mayor Parr, did you have anything you wanted to ask on the?
No, thank you.
Okay. So then, thank you. Yeah, you can sit down at ease. So therefore, I am looking for. Oh no, I'm not. So no other council questions on consent calendar items. Madam Clerk, do we have speakers on the consent calendar?
We do not.
We will close public comment on the consent calendar. Any further council comments? Seeing none, may I have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Moved by Vice Mayor Parr, seconded by Councilmember Bowler. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Okay, that, five ayes, that passes. Okay, we move on now to the regular agenda items. And you know what, I forgot to read my operating instructions for council meetings. So let me just go through this really quickly because I know we have a few speakers, public speakers coming up. I'd just like to remind people at the outset that this is a city council meeting, which is a business meeting. It is not theater. It is not a sporting event. Therefore, we do not applaud. I always say applaud in your heart because we definitely have heard some impressive speakers, but we don't applaud out loud. We don't boo, cheer, jeer, do the wave. And the reason for that is, A, it keeps the meeting moving along more efficiently, but also public speaking can be very stressful. It can be one of the most stressful things people do. And I never want anyone to feel inhibited. Like someone as young as some of our speakers today felt safe enough. It was really impressive to get up and speak in front of a lot of people. And also, we just want everyone to know that you have a right to speak. We want to hear from you. And we're all going to be respectful and listen. When our time is up, we sit down. Everybody has done that this evening. And I also like to set a good civic example for young people. Sometimes they're in the audience with us. Sometimes they're watching remotely. We should just remember that. Especially those of us in the dais, we're setting an example. But most of all, I want to create this as a safe place. This is the town hall for our residents and visitors to speak their mind and listen and be listened to. If you have signs to hold, that is certainly your right under the First Amendment. I just ask if, unless you're sitting in that last row against the wall, don't hold the signs over your head where you would block someone's view. Just hold them up to your chin or something. We can still see them. And that's how we conduct our meetings. And I always read this language that I'm sure is not necessary, but California Penal Code Section 403 states that it is a criminal offense for any person to, without authority of law, willfully disturb or break up any assembly or meeting that is not unlawful in its character, other than an assembly or meeting referred to in Penal Code Section 302 or Elections Code 18340. First violations will receive a warning, and continued violations will require additional action, which could include police intervention. I just want to note that the city clerk could have said that twice as fast, but try as I might, I cannot get up to that speed. So with that, Madam Clerk, will you introduce item 7A, please?
Adoption of resolution appointing Yatin Shastri as a member of the Golf Commission.
All right, and so council, this is what I'm looking for, and we're about to meet our hopefully new commissioner. I'm looking for a motion and a second to adopt this resolution, and then we will have a new golf commission
Move approval.
member. It's been moved by Councilmember Justin, seconded by by Vice Mayor Pryor. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye. Aye. That passes unanimously. Welcome. Nice to meet you in person. We've met on a screen. This is our city clerk, Laura Weisinger. I think you've already spoken with her. Did you hear that, Baba? And by the way, photo opportunities are welcome. So if a little person wants to come up and have Dad hold them, we're family friendly. Mama can come too. Oh my goodness. I will just say that this is about to be our new golf commissioner, who's told me that his score has suffered a little bit recently, and for a good reason. Hi. How cute is that? Adorable.
I do.
I do. Do you? So cute. You can sign it later. Welcome, and would you like to tell us a little about yourself?
Yeah, certainly. So I'm very excited to be part of the Golf Commission. I've seen the wonderful things that have happened at Creeka Park and hope to continue to serve not only the golfing community of Alameda, but the community as a whole, and especially our youth and the great youth programs at Creeka.
No. And when I interviewed you for this position, you told me what motivated you to become a young golfer.
Yeah, I mean, it was Tiger Woods, so watching him win the 97 Masters definitely inspired me to go out into my backyard and swing the club, and here I am, 29 years later now, still golfing.
And with the next generation of golfer with you. Well, thank you all for coming. It's great to see you, and thank you. Wave bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you so much. All right, that's our new golf commissioner. All right, yeah. This is family night at City Council. All right, Madam Clerk, so this is where we're going to slip item 10A in.
Okay. Consider directing staff to place the issue of reconfiguration, restriping of McCartney Road on a future council agenda to allow councils to provide input. This item was placed on the agenda at the request of Councilmember Daysog.
All right. Council member, he wants to come back to the microphone. So,
Madam Mayor, I have a point of order.
Sure.
Did we take a motion to have an agenda change?
The mayor announced it under agenda changes, and I didn't hear any objection, so.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
I generally do it that way as the one conducting the
I
meeting.
was
Do you
under the
object?
impression that
Do you
there-
object? Do you want a motion, Councilmember?
Well, we always have a motion. When there's an agenda change, what you do normally, in my experience, has been to ask for an agenda change. I don't really care, and I would support it, but I was just curious
This is our
why
parliament, of course.
I think
happening
that
differently.
practice has been a little bit mixed, and I think that the mayor sometimes makes the announcement and it just happens, and sometimes the council has voted. So I think it definitely has been mixed, but typically the council does, the mayor does announce it, and sometimes, then it leads into a discussion, but it didn't this time.
I'm happy to have a motion. Would you like to make a motion?
Sure. Motion to amend the agenda.
It needs a little more specificity, Councilmember.
To move the referral item 10A to wherever, 5A,
Right after 7A, I believe.
7A.
Right after that. All right, we've had a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by stating aye. Aye.
Aye.
Was that unanimous?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So this is a council referral brought by Councilmember Daysog. So I am going to turn the floor over to you, Councilmember.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Beginning in the month of December, perhaps even in November, we received a number of emails from residents concerned about the project that has since been completed on McCartney Road regarding restriping the project. And looking into it further, in addition to comments made by the public, I'm not too sure that the city council had officially approved the lane change. I do recognize that the city council had approved contracts regarding bulb out extensions, things like that. And I think we did that in December 2024. But whether or not there was actual guidance with regard to switching of the lanes as has since been done, I think it is certainly subject to question, if not concern, by members of the public. And I know for sure it would have been a concern of mine because, you know, when you look at Bay Farm Island / Harbor Bay Isle using Google Earth, or if you just know the place, the area is basically designed in kind of a suburban style city planning, in terms of having basically most of the main roads south of Camino del Valle, all the roads south of Camino del Valle basically feed into McCartney. So the design of Harbor Bay Isle Bay Farm, especially south of Del Valle, is very different from the rest of the island. The rest of the island were designed in your typical grid style that allows for cars to move in different directions in many different ways to get to the same point. Whereas in 94502, south of Camino del Valle, you all have to feed into McCartney Road. And I know that that would have been a concern given that, you know, in places where there have been severe fires, that, you know, cars being blocked, all of them trying to get into the same road, has been a concern. So I'm pretty sure that that would have caught my attention. But nonetheless, this is an issue that is before us. Many residents have raised some concerns about it, and what I would like to ensure is that the public gets input on the approval or disapproval of the roadway redesign of McCartney, the paved restriping. So what I'd like to definitely do is hear from the staff as well as from the public about this.
Thanks, Councilmember Daysog. And so we have with us this evening our Public Works Director, Aaron Smith, and our City Engineer, Scott Wickstrom. I would like to invite both of them up to just give an overview of this item that Councilmember Daysog brought, and just any input. I know you had notice of this, so so come on up, one or both. You can delegate, but it's always good to hear from both of you. I think I'm seeing delegation by Public Works Director Aaron Smith to City Engineer Tag. You're it. Welcome.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, Scott Wickstrom, City Engineer. And I think it's worth having this discussion, and I think it's going to be valuable for us as a group and a community, trying to get an understanding of what level of involvement we want to have in projects going forward. I think if we step back a little bit and look at this project as specifically in Bay Farm Island paving and the striping that was done there, we can probably break down the issues into 3 different levels. One is the technical. That would be me as a traffic engineer looking at numbers and counts and level of service and backups. The other would be a level of public engagement. What is the appropriate level of public engagement? Can we do more? Should we do more? What is the amount that we should do? And then lastly, what is legal authority? What does council have to prove, and what has been delegated to staff? So I think those are the 3 kind of big buckets to put in there. I really don't have a formal presentation prepared tonight. I can ad-lib a little bit about each of those if that would be beneficial for you.
Well, tell us about this particular area, because that's the one
Okay.
that's
So
gaining all
the-
the attention.
Yeah, the issue at hand is really the restriping of McCartney from Fortman Way to Island Drive, and then Island Drive one block past, if you will, all the way to County Road, which is just past the Starbucks there. Last year, before we went ahead and did this project, it was a 4-lane road, 2 lanes in each direction. With this project, we narrowed down the lane widths to a single lane in each direction. It's very critical to understand that we did not modify curb widths or anything else, so the width of the actual asphalt is the same as it was before. During an emergency or during times of crisis, vehicles could get through in the same manner they can right now. Okay, that's the big thing. The second thing we did is we made a couple modifications at the Island and McCartney intersection. Most notably, we eliminated the double right turn that existed at the stop sign. It's a very unusual movement. It's rare. I don't think you can really point to another one in the state of California where you have a double right on a stop sign. You see it fairly often, or not fairly often. You see it commonly at a stop sign, a traffic signal at a stoplight, but it's very rare to see it at a stop sign. So when cars go at different times, it's a little bit awkward, creates a little bit of confusion. That was a recommendation from a traffic engineer to kind of promote safety. It also helps pedestrians as they cross that intersection as well, fewer approaches to pass. The other change on the eastbound direction, there were 2 through lanes. Now there's clearly only 1 through lane going through the intersection. Those were the changes at the intersection. Our analyses showed that post-project, that there was not a significant impact. There was a slight increase in the southbound Island Drive traffic turning right onto McCartney. And it was, the level of service added, I think, 4 or 5 seconds, or the delay 4 or 5 seconds. The backup during the peak afternoon time went from about 80 feet to about 130 feet. So you're basically adding on 3 to 4 cars, not very significant. Coincidentally, the eastbound McCartney going northbound onto Island, right, which is a very heavy movement as well. The analyses suggest and basically say that the backup and the delay would be reduced. It's a little bit counterintuitive, but what we've done to that intersection was previously there were 10 different approaches, 10 different lanes that funneled into that single stop sign. That's very difficult for any driver to kind of come to that stop sign and look around and try to make eye contact with those other people to kind of acknowledge who has right of way, whose turn is it to cycle through. Reducing the number of approaches simplifies those interactions, and we believe it should actually increase the efficiency of that intersection. Okay. So those are the main changes that we're talking about.
Thank you so much. Council, before we go to public comment, thank you for that. Do we have any clarifying questions for our city engineer?
Well, yes.
I'll start with Councilmember Daysaw.
Yes, so is there a specific authority that you could point to that council gave you to make the different kind of changes that you had articulated? Because I don't recall that.
There are several different plans and policies that have been adopted by council. So I think the most notable one is the Vision Zero policy, which basically admonishes staff to consider safety as the highest priority when looking at all transportation improvements, right? So that's our number one thing is safety. It's our judgment that the safety would be improved by going from the 4-lane configuration to 2-lane configuration, additionally with the changes at that intersection as well. There's also in the active transportation plan, McCartney is identified as a neighborhood greenway. Neighborhood greenways, you would typically think as that kind of thing is going to be a 2-lane road and not a 4-lane road. It's not explicit, you are correct in that, but it's certainly implied. General plan street classifications, and even in the most recently adopted strategic plan, there's an item in there, transportation item number 6, assess the bike and ped safety improvements on McCartney Avenue. So there's a number of kind of policies and documents that speak to safety on McCartney. Nothing specifically that council said about removing a lane. Now, if we go a step further in the Alameda Municipal Code, Section 8-1.1, the authority is delegated to the city engineer to develop transportation implementation plans, standards, procedures based on generally accepted transportation engineering and planning standards and principles to ensure the orderly operations of the city's transportation systems, right? And so when we're looking at this area, and it's more than just the corridor and the intersection is really what we're focused on. From my judgment, with our consultants providing some detailed analyses, that the traffic operations are not negatively impacted, and in some ways they're actually even improved, while providing a discernible safety benefit to the public. So that was kind of thing. But to your point, directly and specifically, council never explicitly stated that we should go from a 4-lane road to a 2-lane road from the 4-block section there on McCartney.
So follow-up question. So at some point in time, though, you took out your plan to, I believe, the Harbor Bay Harbor Bay Homeowners Association. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
And they had voted to oppose the idea of changing the lanes, as I understand it. So and if you can tell us, A, when was the date when you took it, and when you found out that they opposed it, B, and C, in light of opposing it, why would you not then ask city council or work with the city manager to ask city council to, that part I don't understand.
Yeah, and Harbor Bay, I get lost in the alphabet with all the names, but it's the Community of Harbor Bay Isle Homeowners Association, right?
Mm-hmm.
They passed a resolution, so let's go back in timing. In January of 2025, I went in front of the Transportation Commission and presented the project along with our consultants, and we walked through each of the steps and each of the proposed changes and modifications. That was in January. We did send emails out to members of the public. We did let members of the Harbor Bay Isle Association, their board members and others know that this was coming to the Transportation Commission. There were they did not comment during the Transportation Commission meeting. Shortly after that is when they passed the resolution not supporting the proposed changes. I went in front of their board in March of 2025 and had a lengthy discussion with them, touching on a lot of their concerns, which a lot of it had to do with evacuation safety in times of a fire or at times of tsunami, just roadway capacity, how roadways function, all that stuff. And we had a fairly lengthy discussion directly about that. We may have at that point agreed to disagree a little bit with some things, but that was the timeline. It was first Transportation Commission meeting, then the resolution, then I met with their board.
So even with your disagreement with the Harbor Bay Homeowners Association, you still felt that you would exercise the authority that you believe that the municipal code gives you to make the decision to make?
Yes, because in my opinion, a lot of the objections from the business association or the homeowners association were frankly somewhat unfounded. A lot of it revolved around emergency access and island egress during an evacuation. If we step back, because the evacuation is the one that's kind of touchy and it's kind of sensitive, and understandably so. But if you step back from a I'll say larger perspective, you always, as a traffic engineer, have to look at the bottlenecks. Where are the bottlenecks? On Bay Farm Island, there's 3 ways off the island, right? You either go down Island Drive and you're up at Doolittle, going right or left up there. You're going down McCartney to Harbor Bay Road, or you're sneaking out the back way through Ogdenbaugh to Bay Edge Road, right? Those are where, if there's ever a mass evacuation event that occurs on Bay Farm Island, those are going to be your bottlenecks. That's where the traffic is going to be. What we're talking about here, right in the middle of the island, is not going to be the critical path that's going to prevent people from getting off the island. It'll be those 3 bottlenecks. And so that's another consideration to figure out. The other thing that I brought up with them is the Cal OES, it is a low risk for fire. So we would not anticipate a wildfire in the same manner that was observed in LA, which is basically a hillside environment, heavily treed, because of its relative flat. It's just not a high risk fire based on Cal OES's definition. The other concern, obviously, then is the tsunami. And tsunami, the characteristic earthquake that would create the tsunami that would cause problems for the city of Alameda is actually one that would occur in the Aleutian Islands, way up, in the far end of Alaska, with an estimated arrival time of 4 to 5 hours. So there is a little bit of time to both notify the public and as much as possible get them off. Again, any evacuation efforts on Bay Farm Island are going to be limited by Island and Doolittle, Maitland and Harbor Bay and getting off Bay Edge Road. So it's not really at all related to the, we'll say, the immediate capacity of McCartney. The other thing I'll say, and I'll say this for the benefit of, for just kind of the audience in perspective as well, a lot of times we get caught up in the idea of like, well, we're going to lose a lane, we're going to lose all this capacity. On a residential local roadway network, capacity is controlled by the intersections, not by the through segments, not by the mid-block sections. Kind of basic 101 that we took from traffic engineering was that 2,000 cars per lane per hour. That's kind of your baseline, and there's umpteen different factors to kind of bump that up a little bit or reduce it down, depending on lane width and a host of other factors. But you're basically looking at 2,000 cars per lane per hour. When you get to an intersection, that drops down to 800 cars per lane per hour because you have to go back and forth, whether it's a stop sign, whether it's a traffic signal. Now, a roundabout actually has a little higher throughput than either a stop or a traffic signal, but either way, it's still going to be controlling it. So a mid-block reduction in the lanes is not actually affecting capacity on the roadway network. When we again speak of this area, the highest movement that we see on the daily basis is really people coming eastbound McCartney, turning left, going northbound on Island to get off the island. That's the morning, and then the evening they're coming home the opposite direction. It really is those two turning movements. We did nothing to affect the length of the existing left turn pocket. Right now, there's a single left turn lane from McCartney onto Island. There's always been one left turn lane, and the length of that left turn pocket is unchanged. We used to have 2 through lanes. We never needed that capacity to go through, so we got that down to 1 just to reduce the number of conflicts at the intersection. But the flow through that intersection is unaffected. We are well aware that coming southbound on Island, we eliminated one of those 2 right turn lanes. That does produce a little bit of extra friction, a little bit of additional backup. But realistically, as people do make that corner and then turn right onto McCartney, going again westbound, now you're going towards the ferry, I'm going in the afternoon back, a single lane of traffic is going to be more than adequate to carry the people that can get through the intersection.
One more quick question. So there was supposed to be a roundabout, right, at Island and McCartney at some point in time. And I believe staff has put that aside as a result of community uproar about that. So would not the experience of the community uproar about the traffic circle give you, as the traffic engineer, some alarm that the community's Harbor Bay Isle Homeowners Association's opposition to the restriping, which should be something that should also be brought to council?
That's a fair question, and I think that would really kind of fall back into the outreach component, the engagement component, and that's probably a better way that I think to look back from our standpoint, to look back in retrospect. We could have done our outreach a little differently. We could have been more expansive and and done a better job. There's no question about that. From a technical standpoint, I still believe that technically we made the right decision, that we are making the right decision, that the striping that's out there on the ground is actually going to lead to both a safer and I'm going to say a slower, and I'm going to say slower on the mid-block portion of the roadway, that people are going to be less inclined to drive fast. We well know from all of our Vision Zero information that speed kills, right? So people that drive faster lead to more adverse outcomes during collisions. I feel confident that the technical decisions that we made are good, that are right. There might be a couple little things that we will continue to look at over the next 3 to 6 months. We do that with every paving project that after we go through our project, we live with it for a little bit and say, hey, is there a minor little change we might want to make, a little bit of striping here, a little bit of striping there. But fundamentally, the road diet, the lane reduction from Fontana to County Road, I believe that is the right technical decision. The changes at the intersection, I believe those are the correct decisions as well. Again, it's the outreach, the engagement could have been a little bit different. I do want to also be careful. It's hard, I'll say from my standpoint, and I realize I got to catch myself at times, but sometimes it's not necessarily purely a popularity, like what is most popular. Sometimes a difficult decision has to be made that might not be popular in the immediate, because it seems like this is different than what we've had for the last, in many cases, 30 to 40 years, for as long as that development has been there. It's different, it's a change, but it's not going to be, I think if we live with it for a period of time, I think most of the residents will come to recognize it's not as severe as their worst fears, and perhaps it may even be beneficial to them in their view as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice job on your answers, too. Councilmember Bowler? I'm going down the road this way, and I know you're a Harbor Bay resident. And again, these are clarifying questions because we do have public speakers, and we'll do discussion after. Did you have any clarifying questions?
I do have a few.
Please,
Thank you.
please.
Thank you so much. As far as the Transportation Commission component, approximately a year ago, was that the main location where public input was taken, or are there other workshops or anything?
So there were 3 places. There was the Transportation Commission. We also, the Harbor Bay Isle, the homeowners, the board meeting, so it was a little bit smaller group. And then also did attend Bay Farm Elementary at one of their PTSA meetings as well.
And then just having watched Transportation Commission meeting, it looked like there was maybe 3 persons who provided public comment on that particular. Is that close to your memory, or?
That sounds about right. It was not a huge number of comments.
And as it relates to getting persons to attend those 3 forums, what efforts did the city make?
We did a news blast for the Transportation Commission. There was also an email list we had as a relatively small group, an email list that we sent out to as well for the Transportation Commission. It was also up on our news page on the web page. For the PTSA, I attended one of their standing meetings, and the PTSA president advertised that we were going to be talking about, specifically talked a lot about Augenbaugh there, because that's where Bay Farm Elementary is. So it was fairly well attended there. I was invited as a guest to the board meeting, so I did not do any additional outreach there.
And is this a common dynamic where, despite outreach efforts, sometimes persons who may be quite interested in things just don't get the information and don't attend? Is this a common sort of tug of war that you're trying to do from city staff at Public Works, trying to advertise things so people will show up, but then it's always, because you were very open about saying that perhaps more could have been done, so I just want to get a little more information.
Yeah, and I think one of the things we find is, and you can use on the other side of the island, Central Avenue as another example, where that project had 10 years of lead up to that project and numerous well-attended public meetings. And yet, once construction starts, people seem to have forgotten that. And it's like, wait, we're doing what? We're doing, and so a lot of times, I'm an engineer, I live in the world of plans and stuff like that, so I can look at a set of plans, I totally understand what it means. But I think there may be a lot of public that don't really, there's a step missing until it's real on the ground. And when it's real on the ground, then it's like, okay, now I can understand what this means, and now I bring my concerns forward. It's maybe a little bit harder to understand the abstract. I'm still struggling, we could have done more. What I'm kind of struggling with is, like, do we send mailers out? I mean, we could send a letter out to every single resident on Bay Farm Island. That would have been a mailer. We could have done that. That would have, and how many additional people would have showed up at the Transportation Commission meeting as a result of that? I'm not really sure. But yeah, we need to look at what are the ways that we can kind of try to get more voices out there. I do want to stop short of having workshops and stuff like that. In a level of perspective, we have, for transportation, we have corridor projects, right? This is our Central Avenue, it's Tilden Clement, it's Lincoln Marshall Pacific, these big multi-mile ones. Then we have paving project, which is an order of magnitude smaller on the scale of things, and particularly on the outreach. We used to, for a long time, just do paving projects where we literally, we selected the streets based on pavement condition, we go out there, we pave, we restriped exactly the way it was, right? That's the simplest, easiest thing in the world for me to do, right? For us to do, is just to do that. As part of Vision Zero, we were very much pressed to do more, right? To do more and to do it faster. And there's been this recognition that the paving program is basically, you're going out and you're paving many miles, in this case, 10.2 miles this year of either roads, you're either paving or slurry seal, and you basically have a blank slate. that you can basically, you're compelled to restripe, and you restripe, you have opportunities to restripe in a way that's safer for the public, right? So that is something we've been doing over the last few cycles, and we're kind of, as it's a relatively new process for us, and we're trying to find what is that right balance, what is that right amount of engagement, while still allowing us to have a paving project every single year, that it doesn't turn into a, maybe, we might be looking at trying to plan our projects 2 years out, but we don't want to be a multi-year effort with multiple rounds of engagement. That slows the process down, right? We want to stay below that, and that's an open question that we're still trying to find out. What is that balance?
Would it be fair to say that the hinge point on whether or not Public Works in recent times has referred things to City Council is how routine the change might be? And is that something that you think could be benefit from further discussion based on those three categories you indicated at the beginning?
Yeah, I think what would be beneficial for staff would be really to understand from council, what are the things that you want to see? What are the level of changes within the roadway network that you would consider to be routine? What are those changes that you would consider to be a departure from routine? And then obviously there's significant changes, which we already come to you with, like Central Avenue, stuff like that, right? But that middle ground kind of thing like that. And perhaps as we go forward with this discussion, perhaps, in the future, something like McCartney, and even specifically the changes at the stop sign, the intersection of McCartney and Island, are those the type of things that council would like to see? We can come to council. It does require time, and historically paving was always a 2-year program, right? You design this year, you pave next year, and while you're paving, you design the following year. It was a 1-year cycle, just one after another. If we start adding in stops to City Council and potentially Transportation Commission, it broadens that duration. We can do that. We just want to understand from our standpoint, what are the things that are important enough that council would want to see, and trying to come up with a bright and clear line that gives, and as I believe the Muni Code says, delegates some of that authority and responsibility to staff, but clearly lays out what you guys would want to see.
And then the referral seems to talk about halting the current work. Could you comment on how much has been completed so far and what halting would do in terms of safety?
We're almost done. The referral came out a couple weeks ago, and as these things go, referrals basically is a referral so that could become on an agenda, and to agendize it, we're likely a month out. That would basically mean having the roadways unstriped for an extended period of time, which is itself a safety hazard. So we proceeded with the striping. It is nearly complete. Most of the long lines are in, and so there's some detail work that needs to be added in. The one, I'll say, major component that's still outstanding on the project is I'm just going to call it the roundabout at McCartney, Maitland, and Melrose, the 3 M's. We have a roundabout that is scheduled to be installed in the next couple of weeks, but that really hasn't been an issue that was brought up by any of the commenters that I've been aware of, so that's the one that's still outstanding. But yeah, our decision was to kind of move forward with it because the amount of time it would have taken to do that would have been, in my opinion, unacceptable and an unacceptable risk.
You mentioned road diet, but you also said it's 4 blocks of McCartney. The McCartney was never in its full duration a 4-lane road, right? 2 lanes in each direction. Is it really a road diet, this restriping, or is that just words? I don't know.
We're going from 4 lanes to 2 lanes for a 4-block section. County to Island, Island to Fontana. My name, street's right.
Are there things that could be changed possibly after City Council review that would maybe keep those same fundamentals present but make the roadway even more safe? Is it a possibility that there's things that the review could uncover that would show that the roadway could be made even safer within the basic contours of the change?
Can you elaborate a little bit on that? I'm not
Well,
sure I understand.
I'll get specific. So one of the comments I've heard is that the dashed lines are localized to the areas of uncontrolled turns, whereas in other parts of Alameda, those dashed lines are extended
Okay, yeah,
more. Do you understand what I'm asking?
I clearly, so, as I mentioned, you know, we get the striping down, we kind of look at it a little bit, and if we have to make a couple changes and adjustments, I understand exactly what you're saying. What I think, if I got this correct, is as you approach, if you're on McCartney and you approach, we'll say Baywood, one of the right turns off of McCartney, the buffered bike lane goes all the way to the intersection. It does not stop short of that intersection and allow the cars to kind of scoot over. That was a design intention of our consultant when they went through this process, but it's something we can definitely look at and we can certainly reconsider. That's something we could evaluate over the next weeks to months.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Pryor?
I don't have questions. I have comments, but I'll wait.
Okay. Councilmember Jensen?
Thank you. My first question is for the city attorney, actually. Is there any issues with noticing or future deliberations since the referral title requests that the McCartney matter come back for council input, but then the narrative summary provides that work will be halted and the item will come back for a council decision, and it won't happen until the council decides to move forward?
Councilmember, I'm not sure I exactly understand. If you're asking whether or not this item is correctly agendized, yes, it is correctly agendized, and staff is able to answer these council questions.
So, but with regard to whether we provide input, does that mean it has to be, that the project can be halted? I'm just, in the title, it doesn't say anything about stopping the project, the title of the referral. So I'm just asking whether that's.
Well, I think the city clerk, I think the city clerk's about to explain the two-step process of referrals, which I'm happy to.
Nice handoff here.
The council referrals specifically that, you know, council has adopted the process and the policy for it, and it's a two-step process except for urgent legislative matters. And because this wasn't an urgent legislative matter, it's therefore, all you can do tonight is provide direction for staff to bring it back. But you could provide like urgent direction, or you can provide specific direction on what you want to see when it comes back, but it has to be this two-step process as required by the council referral process.
Okay, so we can either decide to halt it today or to just bring it back for discussion and not have any changes in the actual project timeline.
Well, I think you're providing direction tonight is all you're doing. You're not, the direction is for what will come back to council specifically.
Okay, so we can't take any action to halt the project today.
Right,
Great.
correct.
That was my question.
Correct.
Thank you. And so the other question I have for our engineer, our city engineer and deputy planning director is, I remember in April of 2025, Stephen Buckley, Planning Services Manager, and Lisa Foster, Transportation Manager, presented the annual 2024 reports on the general plan and the housing element and transportation choices plan. And in that report, it included the pavement management and safety improvements, and the city council approved design and construction of a paving project on Bay Farm Island and the active transportation plan on McCartney Road to include additional treatments to support pedestrian, bicycle, and vehicular safety. So with the approval of that transportation plan and the explicit consideration of the Vision Zero plan and McCartney Road and Maitland Drive and treatments to support pedestrian, bicycle, and vehicular safety, is that sufficient council input, or would you say, I guess, let me put it another way, would you say that council has formally approved this project, given that that was in that plan and that approval was provided?
There's a matter of degrees here, and at a certain point I'll defer to our city attorney, but there's a question of, did you city council previously approved a series of plans that support the action? I don't recall exactly the presentation that planning manager Buckley gave, along with transportation manager Foster, but they may have talked in generality about the improvements on Bay Farm Island, but there may be a question about specificity. Did the city council actually see the plans, presented the plans, say, and this will this will do a lane reduction from 4 lanes to 2 for this 4-block section. And I think that specificity is lacking. And so I'll let,
Well, given that the language that was approved says that consistent with the city's Vision Zero plan and active transportation plan, McCartney Road will include additional treatments to support pedestrian, bicycle, and vehicular safety. Since that provision was approved by the council, would that be sufficient authority to do this project?
Council member, if I may, when the council engages in strategic planning, you're not engaging in specific project approvals. You're giving staff direction on what you would like to essentially prioritize. I think the staff has answered the question well, in that staff is drawing their authority from the various general plans and policies that the council has adopted. I think when this item comes back, it'll be an opportunity for the council and staff to work together to refine those policies.
Thank you. And my last question, do you think that there would be any cost associated or either with staff time or contractor delays or anything if the project were halted?
At this stage, there's enough striping on the ground that it would be problematic to stop at this time.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I also, from a safety perspective, think it would be unwise to not complete. That doesn't preclude this body from providing direction to restripe to its previous configuration. We can do that. But from a safety perspective, I advise we do it now, and there's no point, no value in actually stopping where we are right now. Most of the work within that 4-block section is already complete. The stuff that's not complete is, if you will, outside those bounds.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, City Engineer Wickstrom. Nicely done. All right, we are going to go to public comment, of which I believe we have quite a few. What do we have?
We currently have 13, so everybody will get 2 minutes unless the council elects to
13.
do a different time limit.
They do not.
Okay. And then we'll start with Maria Piper, then Brian Piper, then Joe Matisse.
Okay, and if you can listen for your names and just be ready to scoot right up to the microphone when your time's up. Welcome. Hello.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor and council members. I want to start by grounding this discussion in the council's own adopted policy. While there may have been disagreement when the policy was adopted or debated, once it's approved, it's a clear and binding direction to staff. The project before you is not a discretionary design choice or an experiment. It's the straightforward implementation of council adopted policy. I'd like to briefly highlight a few points from Alameda Resolution number 15648 adopted in 2020 because they explain exactly why staff did what they did, in my opinion. Now, therefore, be it resolved that when designing, redesigning, or resurfacing streets consistent with this policy, improvements in right-of-way space shall be allocated based on the following principles and priorities. Provide safe and convenient access for vulnerable users, including children, seniors, and people bicycling and walking, as well as transit riders. Safety for people walking and bicycling shall be the highest priority. Support motor vehicle speeds of 25 miles per hour. And motor vehicle turning speeds and pedestrian crossing distances should be appropriately minimized. These were huge crossings on McCartney. These directives are unambiguous. Staff followed them as written, and this project reflects that direction. A referral at this stage asks council to step into implementation decisions already settled through policy, undermining predictable and effective governments. I also want to briefly address the HOA resolution cited in the support of this referral. This comes from a subset of Bay Farm HOAs, not all HOAs even on Bay Farm. While many Bay Farm residents live in HOAs, not all do, and only a small fraction of owners typically participate in those HOA meetings. In fact, this particular HOA doesn't even abut McCartney Road in many of the communities that are part of it. Renters are also not included in HOAs, so many people are not included at all. And those perspectives of that board might be sincerely held, but they should not outweigh adopted citywide policy governing public streets. And I respectfully urge the council to take no action and allow staff to continue implementing the project as directed.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Brian Piper, then Joe Matisse, then Rachel Lee.
Welcome, Speaker Piper.
All right, thank you all. So my name is Brian Piper. I've lived in Bay Farm for about 12 years. I'm here to speak in support of the changes that have been made to McCartney and to urge council to take no action on the referral. There are a few items I want to highlight. First is procedure. While some feel changes were done via fiat, it appears to me that they result from policies approved by the City Council. Asking for every staff action to be subject to rounds of review, even when the City Council supports these actions through policy, seems wasteful. This is a recipe for civic gridlock. Second, financial. We must face the current reality. The work is mostly done by now. As such, I think it is financially irresponsible to even consider taking up city staff time to study the issue, to say nothing of the funds that would obviously be wasted if we were to redo the work. Especially now that the results are not a dramatic departure from the previous striping, but can be seen, in fact, it can be seen in the complaints that the changes are starting to slow down drivers as intended already. Third, misinformation. Some of the criticism seems to be at best out of date, citing objections to specific changes that did not happen and are not happening. I would have expected that an informed council member would notice this and try to correct mistakes instead of proposing to waste tax dollars. Finally, the referral is implied to be here because of a transportation researcher's objectives, according to the referral. I looked into the published papers of the researcher to get better background. The expertise is in the area of environmental health sciences. In fairness, though, there is one paper from this researcher I would very much like to highlight, the only one that I could find that explicitly focused on transportation, specifically pedestrian and bicycle safety. The paper found a higher rate of crashes near parks and concluded planners should consider the higher risks of active travel near parks. And it continues, additional traffic calming and safety infrastructure may be needed to provide safe routes to parks. Given this research, I am grateful for steps that were taken to protect Leigh-Decker Park along McCartney. My regret is not that we lost a lane of traffic, but that we didn't do more.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Joe Matisse, then Rachel Lee, then Jackie Zipkin.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Ashcraft. Appreciate the opportunity to speak. I'm Joe Matisse. I'm a resident of Normandy Village in Bay Farm. I want to take the council back about a year and a half ago, when my son, Jacob, and I were walking back from his friend's house a little further north on the aisle. We got to the intersection of Augenbau and McCartney, coming down Augenbau towards the fire station on that side of the street. And then we were inches away from being hit by a driver who did not correctly navigate the four-way intersection as we crossed the intersection. It was a very dangerous interaction. We only avoided the crash because I saw that the driver didn't see me, didn't do as the engineer said, didn't look around at all the different places and make eye contact. I saw they didn't make eye contact. I pulled my son back as the car drove through where we were just standing moments ago. I want to speak in support of the actions of the city engineer and the Public Works Department. I very much appreciate how McCartney is right now. People drive 25 miles an hour on it now instead of the 35 that I was seeing very frequently before. And I feel much safer as I walk down McCartney from Normandy over to Safeway several times per week. I'm able to cross it safely. It's a very simple road to cross now. There's only 2 lanes in each direction. I really appreciate the extra lights that they added as well. All these crossing lights have made it much easier for us to cross. Before, if I forgot and didn't cross at the one alert lights that were down way over by Safeway, if I got all the way down to Normandy and tried to cross there, it would be very unsafe. Now it's much safer. They've done a lot of great work, and I would urge the city council to take no action on this referral and really appreciate the work of the Alameda Public Works Department. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Rachel Lee, then Jackie Zipkin, then William Pye.
Welcome, Speaker Lee.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Rachel Lee, and I'm here today as a resident of Bay Farm, Harbor Bay, and someone who was present a year ago when community members gathered in Bay Farm to talk through the initial concepts of this project and noted the thoughtful, collaborative tone that marked the entire process. That meeting was part of a deliberate, multi-step engagement that included neighborhood outreach, revisions based on community input, traffic and safety analysis, and open opportunities for questions and feedback. That's exactly the kind of transparent, participatory planning process that builds trust and ultimately makes our city's investments more effective. This project isn't outside of the paving plan. It's central to it. It uses paving dollars wisely to address known safety concerns, improve traffic flow in a corridor that residents use every day, and enhance multimodal access for people walking and biking. It's not simply repainting lines, it's about making our streets safer without jeopardizing fiscal responsibility. I understand there are folks who have concerns. That's the value of an open process. Concerns get expressed, heard, and considered. But I also want to point something important out. Reverting to the old configuration, as some are asking this council to consider, would not only undo months of community engagement and staff effort, it would be a costly move. Reconstructing pavement layouts, restriping, re-engineering signals, and all of the associated labor would significantly exceed the current project's budget, diverting scarce public resources away from other pressing needs. We don't need to hit pause. The process worked well. The plan is thoughtful, and the project fits squarely within the paving plan you adopted. For those reasons, and in support of the process that brought this forward.
Thank you so much, and your time
no
is up.
action.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Jackie Zipkin, then William Pye, then Amy Chauncey.
Welcome, Speaker Zipkin.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. My name is Jackie Zipkin, and I'm a parent and homeowner on Bay Farm in Harbor Bay. I'm here to speak in support of maintaining the bike lanes and safety improvements on McCartney Drive and to request additional safety improvements on Kaufman Way at Tillman Park. For multiple generations now, families have chosen to raise their kids in Alameda and on Bay Farm in particular because it affords the independence and ability to safely explore our community for our kids. I love that my kids can walk to school and that their friends live close enough that they can walk and ride bikes between houses. But increasingly bigger cars with increasingly distracted drivers threaten that freedom. The intersection at McCartney and Augenbaugh in its previous configuration with 2 lanes was unsafe, as is the unmarked crossing from Limerick Lane to Tillman Park, which I spoke to the council about on January 6th. I respectfully disagree with the HOA that purports to represent me. And commenters who say that Bay Farm streets were fine before the improvements and that 2 vehicle lanes need to be maintained on McCartney to prevent traffic. The intersection was unsafe, and the improvements facilitate the ability for our kids to travel without fear. Furthermore, the safer bike and pedestrian options are, the more people who will use them, decreasing congestion on the streets. I urge the council to stay true to the city's values as adopted in the Vision Zero Action Plan and Active Transportation Plan. Continue with the improvements on McCartney and add a pedestrian crossing at Tillman Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
William Pye, then Amy Chauncey, and then Sawyer Lewandowski.
Welcome, Speaker Pye.
Hello. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I appreciate everyone's service on behalf
Sir,
of our
you might
city.
want to raise your microphone just a little bit so we can hear you better. Thank you.
I don't know if you could hear me, but I appreciate everyone's service on behalf of the city and our community. My name is Bill Pye, and for those of you who are not familiar with the community of Harbor Bay Isle, it is a group of 20 homeowners associations on Bay Farm Island. Bay Farm Island has a little over 13,000 residents. Over 9,000 of them are in the community of Harbor Bay Isle. So there are 20 homeowners associations in there. I was one of the primary signers on the February 2025 resolution that opposed the proposed changes that are at issue today. I do acknowledge that the city, in my view, did have a relatively transparent process. I participated in, I think, almost all of the meetings that were mentioned. I do appreciate that, and the city has made an effort, recognizing, of course, there are some people for whom such will never be enough. But I do want to ask that the city do approve the referral and hear this before before the open council. All right. My concern here is that the process was not as open as it should have been, or that the city council should be able to weigh in on this. Plus, as you may have seen you've probably seen the letter dated January 6th from Sack Rosenden, the law firm based in Oakland, to which the city's not yet had a chance to respond, that according to the partner there, they believe that according to section 1800 of the California Streets and Highways Code, the process that you're taking right now is illegal. Only legislative bodies are empowered to approve changes to city streets. That's why we need an open debate here, and that's why the city council needs to, in our view, have its open discussion to allow final input. There have been some changes made. I think we should have that open debate. All right, finally, we've all seen in Washington how our federal government now feels it can ignore and break the law at any time. It would be a shame if that
Thank you,
applied
and
to
your
the city
time
as
is
well.
up. Our next speaker.
Thank you.
Amy Chauncey, then Sawyer Lewandowski, and then we'll go to remote speakers.
Welcome, Speaker Chauncey.
Hi, good evening. I'm Amy Cianci.
I'd like to thank you all for your time and say that I am a homeowner and resident of Bay Farm, and I live exactly in the area that we're discussing. I live right off of McCartney, where it was 2 lanes in each direction and now is 1. I live on Camino del Valle, and this greatly affects me and my family, and we are in full support of this project, and thank you. I have visibly seen with my eyes traffic now going slower. I have 2 children that want to walk to the library and ride their bikes to school, and my husband and I have not let them. There have been too many close calls in all of those crosswalks with myself walking my dog daily. I've had to jump back from almost being hit by a car. The lights flash, you start to walk, 1 car stops, but guess what? The next car in the other lane is flying down. Cars fly up and down that street trying to get to the ferry or home from the ferry. Since it has become 1 lane, it is a noticeable difference of people trying to at least drive the speed limit. I feel that we were given enough notice. We were told what was happening. Everything was transparent, and we are, my husband and I and family are in full support of this, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Sawyer Lewandowski.
Welcome, Speaker Lewandowski, another young person. If we had ages, but we don't ask for them on speaker slips, we would have put them in ascending order, but welcome.
Good evening. My name is Sawyer Lewandowski. I am 9 years old and a 4th grader at Bay Farm School. I live right off McCartney in the between cross streets of Island Drive and Vermont Drive. It is a very busy road with lots of speeding cars heading to and from the Harbor Bay Ferry Terminal. Both my parents, on separate occasions, have almost been hit by a car while walking in the crosswalk with the lights flashing on near Lydecker Park. Because of this, my parents won't let me cross the street on the crosswalks alone or ride my bike to school by myself either. A lot of cars come down McCartney too fast, and there have been too many close calls. Making the lanes 1 now instead of 2 with a large buffered bike lane makes us all feel safer. Having 1 lane will force the cars to drive more slowly, and the new wider bike lanes will make it safer for the bikers. I love biking to school, and now that there is a new wide bike lane the whole way to school with hopefully slower driving cars, I hope I'll be able to bike to school more often. I wanted to thank you all for your hard work and good decisions to make Alameda and Bay Farm a safer place for walkers and bikers. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to express my thoughts.
Awesome job. You should consider running for city council when you're a little older. Our next speaker.
We'll go to 2 remote speakers. The
Okay.
first is Cindy Johnson.
Welcome, Speaker Johnson. Tough act to follow, I just want to add.
Good evening, Mayor Ashcraft and council members. I'm calling on behalf of Bike Walk Alameda to urge you to take no action on this referral. This restriping is part of the city's routine pavement management program, which typically does not go before council and exists precisely so that routine resurfacing and safety improvements can move forward efficiently based on staff expertise, data, city policy and plans, and prior public input. McCartney Road has been discussed at the Transportation Commission and several additional community meetings where the public has had opportunities to review and comment on the designs, which is more engagement than is typical. Pausing the work now to revisit at a council meeting would not add meaningful new information, but it would create delays, uncertainty, and potentially higher costs. More importantly, it would delay real safety improvements for people who use the corridor every day, drivers, cyclists, pedestrians, and families. The proposed reconfiguration meets standards for safety, accessibility, and liability and aligns with Alameda's adopted policies, including the Active Transportation Plan, Vision Zero, and the city's strategic plan priorities around safety and infrastructure investment. Lane reduction and narrowing are proven tools that reduce collisions and enhance pedestrian safety. This restriping strategy is not beyond the scope of the pavement management program. In fact, it's been done before on other streets, like Main Street and Robert Davies. Staff are doing exactly what they should be doing here. We also want to emphasize that council oversight is not being bypassed. The council already exercises oversight through budget approval, program direction, policy adoption, and the commissions you've empowered to do this detailed work. Revisiting an individual street mid-process undermines the structure and sets a precedent that makes it harder to deliver routine infrastructure projects citywide. In short, this referral risks slowing down a project that is already vetted, already funded, and already aligned with the city's stated goals. We respectfully ask the council take no action on this referral and allow the improvements to proceed as planned. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Aparna Kota?
All right. Speaker, what was the last name?
Kota.
Kota, welcome.
Hello, thank you, Mayor Ashcroft and Vice Mayor and Council Member for the opportunity to speak. I'm a pediatrician of 30 years and a homeowner and a parent, and children's safety is the #1 priority. I'm surprised at the comments that don't address children's safety, adult safety, and all the children who are biking and walking to school. For them to have a safe community and to be able to safely go with their friends to the library, to school, and safely move about the city, I think is what the city is all about. And I urge to not take up this referral and to continue to focus on the plans that are already made and not delay them any further. We can't wait. The rest of the school year is here. These kids must have time outdoors to be able to safely move about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll go back to in-person. The first is Tushan Amar Siriwardena, then Mitch Ball, then Rayla Graber.
Welcome, Speaker Amara Siriwardena.
Thank you for allowing this 44-year-old to speak in front of you
Yeah.
today. I'm here to voice my voice against this proposal. While I really appreciate that you're trying to bring up concerns by the community, I think there's a different time and place for that. In my letter that I sent, I paint a picture of what I think of a legislative sandwich of how maybe good legislation happens, which is at the front end when you all do policy work like Vision Zero. That sets the goals, the direction that our really strong city staff can go execute against. And I'll just frame it from, as someone who used to serve in federal government, I saw what happens when shifting legislative priorities happen, budgets that are shaky. It leads to projects that come over budget and under promised on their deliveries. And that is something that I want to highlight on the back end of this sandwich, which is, I think here's an opportunity for you to actually look at how projects are going in Alameda and how we can do them better going forward. If you look at the city's Facebook page, you will see a lot of disappointment about how Central Ave is going right now. And I think there's opportunities to use this important legislative time to figure out ways that we can make those projects more effective, on budget, and higher quality. Because I think we have lots of infrastructure projects that are coming up, and I think citizens want to see that this government can deliver on them. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Mitch Ball, then Rayla Graber, then Maureen Craw.
Welcome, Speaker Ball.
Thank you. The email that this referral is based upon contains a lot of misinformation. It states that McCartney is losing a car lane to add a new bike lane, but that simply isn't true. McCartney has had a multi-use trail and a bike lane on either side for years. As someone who frequently bikes, as I can't afford a car, I find it really discomforting that cyclists have become such a popular target amongst those who enjoy believing in and spreading misinformation. So I really don't appreciate how this misinformation has been legitimized by this referral. A car lane is being removed, but it's being removed to make it easier for pedestrians to cross the street. This makes sense as the high width of the street encourages speeding and was responsible for pedestrian death in 2023. Traffic analysis that was presented to the Transportation Commission last January confirmed that this is a low-volume street that doesn't need many lanes. The exhibited email claims a traffic study was not conducted and that there hasn't been significant public engagement, but this is just more misinformation. The multiple unnecessary car lanes in McCartney have always been wasted space, but now that they've been removed, this wasted space has become more apparent. However, this wasted space may also be an opportunity. One of the many reasons I chose to live in Alameda is because with Park and Webster Street, it is a 15-minute city with cafes, restaurants, convenience stores, and more all within a 15-minute walk. However, Bay Farm does not have a Park or Webster Street and lacks the same opportunity. Long-term, I believe both directions of travel in McCartney should be condensed down to the north side of the median and the south side be converted into mixed-use housing and local small businesses. You would need to make the multi-use trail a dedicated two-way bike path, but if you do, there's more than 500 feet south of the median in many places, which is enough room for new lots. We've seen the concern that arises when Bay Farm is at risk of losing a grocery store, so let's give Bay Farm more options for nearby storefronts in a low-impact way to contribute to the housing element. This wouldn't need to happen all at once, but could start at McCartney and Ogdenbaugh near the ferry terminal and progressively move eastwards. McCartney could be more than just a street you want to get past as quickly as possible, but a destination where neighbors can meet. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Rayla Graber, then Maureen Craw.
Welcome, Speaker Graber.
I hope you're going to vote for this referral tonight. I don't think that this was handled appropriately with enough transparency. I think the City Council, this is a serious thing, McCartney. It's significant on Bay Farm. I mean, it's like Central Avenue. How this ever escaped going from 4 lanes to 2 lanes without coming before the council, I don't understand. And you really need to work on this with Public Works. It wasn't right, and it still isn't right. And no, Bay Farmers are not aware in general. There's plenty of people, probably 10,000 people out there. You know, they're not here tonight because they think it's a done deal. If you open it back up and you put it on the agenda, I think you will find people here that will have very cogent reasons why they are concerned. You know, about switching from 2 lanes to 1 lane. Personally, I hate the look of it. They could have put in a bicycle path without all the jagged lines and a big barrier. You know, one of the truck paint contractors told me it looked terrible, what they've done with the bike path out there. He said they would never do that in Irvine, maybe a higher class community. They would not put it in residential communities, that kind of a thing. That is a residential community. It's not commercial. And it sure as hell looks commercial right now. So anyhow, I do hope you vote for it. I think that's the proper thing to do in the large picture. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Our last speaker is Maureen Craw.
Welcome, Speaker Croft.
Hello, I'm Maureen Craw, and I was born and raised in Alameda, and I've lived on Bay Farm for 55 years, and I'm only 1 house in from McCartney. So I have been opposing the change from 4 lanes down to 2, and they've done it in such a quick fashion that they've painted the little hash marks for parking all the way down the street, and they're evenly spaced. But they haven't looked to notice that people live there in the single-family homes, and they've got lines in the middle of their driveway. So people coming along, if we have a big occasion over at the Lydecker Park and they're parking all over, they're going to be blocking everyone's driveway. So I do oppose it, and I would like to urge you to vote on the referral. Thank you.
Thank you. And Madam Clerk, that's the end of our public comment. Okay. With that, we will close public comment. And we will go back to council discussion. And I'm going to lead on this one, in part because in the year 2025, I had the honor and privilege of being one of 12 mayors that was part of the Mayor's Institute on Pedestrian Safety, a national effort. And I have brought city staff with me virtually to follow-up meetings. I believe we have our last one tomorrow, staff. But I do appreciate all the comments that we've heard. And I think that I don't think we need to move forward and open this project. I think that I really appreciate City Engineer Scott Wickstrom. You did a nice job explaining this process, but even more effective or equally effective, because one thing I want to hasten to add is I am sure not an engineer. I'm a layperson. I'm a policymaker. I do have to say, just point of civic pride as the mayor of Alameda, we have as much class, if not more, than any city in this state. And so, and I'm sure I know the mayor of Irvine, but we've got plenty of class and plenty of heart. But at the end of the day, health and safety are my top priority. And that means making sure that all of our streets are safe for all users. And one of the things that we've talked a lot about in the Mayor's Institute on pedestrian safety is, for so many reasons, we need to get people out of their automobiles, whether they're fossil fuel or electric, but try to drive electric when you can. But we need to do it for our environment. We need to do it to move traffic along. We need to do it for health and safety. I also represent the 14 cities of Alameda County on Metropolitan Transportation Commission. We just heard a study at our last meeting about how travel patterns have in large part stayed the same since the pandemic, except we have more people working from home, working hybrid, and of those people, they are walking much more in their cities, which is another reason we have to make sure our streets are safe for all users. I do think moving forward, and Scott Wickstrom, I think you would agree with me, Lisa Foster, who's been on these webinars, we can do a lot more messaging. We can do it in real time. We can do it effectively. We're already starting to do that. There are some improvements that can be done at Central Avenue. As far as signage, it's coming, but even just to make it as nice as Pacific is looking. But for right now, I think that I am very moved by the speakers we've heard, and I would not support any change at this time. Vice Mayor Pryor?
I also would not support any change at this time. First of all, when we started getting emails, I reached out to our assistant city manager to get more information. And one of the first things I asked was about safety vehicles, and she explained, well, it's really just paint. So the street's exactly the same size. The vehicles are going to get in and out. And I was like, okay, great. And then, explained to me that it's going to be safer for people to cross the street. It's going to slow traffic down. As people noted, it's going to be easier, to cross as pedestrians. There's crossing lights. And so today I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to go drive down the street. It was 3:30 p.m. I came from towards the airport, towards Alameda. I went in the big loop. I went all through McCartney. I drove all through Bay Farm today. I felt like I was the only car on the road. And then I get back, I get onto Otis. Oh my gosh, tons of traffic again, right? It's 3:30. And I take a side street to go home that's parallel to Otis because there's less traffic. And on that street with the less traffic, still had more cars than McCartney. And I think the thing, though, out of all of that really makes me not want to take any action is that we get SIG alerts. This is significant incident alerts all the time that where people are getting hit by cars, people on bikes getting hit by cars, and pedestrians getting hit by cars. And it's a lot. I mean, a lot more than I had realized before I took this position. And so I am also really committed to Vision Zero. I would love to make these streets all over town safer for everybody. And we have to think about the next few generations, and we need to build a city for them. And this is one way we can make things better because they have a lot of challenges. And so if this is something we can do, I'm all for it. I mean, I'm all for not taking action. Okay.
Thank you. Let's see, we have a little bit of time left. Who would like to go next? Councilmember.
I have just 20 seconds, so I'm going
Daysog.
to talk
Yeah,
really
you do.
quickly. Sorry about this.
You have 58, my friend.
No, okay. You've heard tonight reference to active transportation plan, to the Vision Zero plan, and the Transportation Choices plan, and how all of these justify the transition that you're seeing on McCartney Road, which may well be well and good. But remember this, those very same plans were behind the much community-involved processes regarding the changes that we're doing on Lincoln Avenue, the changes that we're doing on Central Avenue, the changes that we're doing on Fernside Avenue. Those were incredibly robust community engagement processes. And so I think that's what the residents of Harbor Bay Isle and Bay Farm are really saying, is that they need to be as much involved in planning of this street. It might be that they will want bigger bike paths. I'm not sure. But I do believe that the safety question that they're raising needs to be seriously vetted through that community engaged process. And so I would move up.
Time is up. And who would like to go next? Councilmember Bowler?
Can you skip me?
I can skip you. Councilmember Jensen? Okay, well, I'm not hearing anything. I'm not seeing a motion.
Can I make a motion for 3 extra minutes?
You want me to unskip you? No. We have moved this item up ahead of our regular agenda. We have staff waiting to present. So, no, but you've got a full 39 seconds.
So I can't make a motion.
You can make a motion. It will take
I've
4
moved for 3 more
affirmative
minutes.
votes. Okay. You'll need a second, and you'll need 4 affirmative votes.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion to add 3 more minutes to our speaking time, second by Councilmember Bowler, seconded by Councilmember Daysog. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
I'm opposed, but okay. All right, well, 3 more minutes. Okay. Madam Clerk, will you add 3 minutes to everyone's time, please? Or how does that work? You wait,
Yeah, we have to wait for it to drop all the way down.
then you
the
add 3.
minutes. Thank
Okay,
you.
all right. So do you want to speak next, Councilmember Bowler?
If I may.
You sure can. You've got
Thank you.
3 minutes and then some.
Thank you. I want to thank Councilmember Daysog for making the referral. I do think it's flawed in the sense that it continues to have the objective of halting the work, which would be unsafe. I do think that the city staff has done a tremendous job in this case. They are indicating that they want more direction in terms of going forward, how to evaluate when projects should come to council. And I agree with Councilmember Daysog that there are times when the community should be heard. That's important. We've gotten an overwhelming response by emails asking for input from the community in Harbor Bay Isle. I think it's an impossible task to some degree because the city does outreach efforts. That's why I said they did a terrific job here. They certainly did. But they also indicate that, this could be the basis for further discussion about when it's most appropriate to get additional council input on projects. When is a street repavement project routine? When is it not? I think there's a fair debate over that point, and I think there's multiple ways that community input helps the process. Mostly transparency, right? I'm sure all of us, when we ran for office, indicated we want to be transparent. We wanted opportunity for the community to be heard. We wanted to try to, as best we can with our limited time, be able to reach out to people, get their input. That's certainly very important. Vision Zero is very important. I agree wholeheartedly with the Vice Mayor that is really important. That's somewhere we have to start. If you were listening, carefully, the persons who were in favor of the referral, some of them wanted the streets to say there's ways to make it safer. And there was even more, I think, from the people that were opposing the referral tonight. I think it's going to be a hard sell to find that going back in time and going back to the way that intersection would somehow be safer. I think the community has an uphill battle to convince staff that. This is an opportunity in disguise to educate and to mostly looking forward, what's the best way to have community input so that staff can have more discretion when they should, and they should have discretion. They're experts. We're not, as the mayor said, we're not traffic engineers. So my sole reason right now for asking for more conversation is to ask that this referral possibly be amended so that it can be in a context of considering the public input, but not to halt the project. The project's almost done. It would be unsafe to do that right now. We can still look at the project, and at the same time, I would ask that the referral be expanded so that it would be a policy discussion, not just about this particular project.
Madam Mayor.
Let's go down to this side to see if anyone else wants to speak. Councilman Jensen, we didn't hear from you. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, as I mentioned in my initial questions and comments to our traffic engineer and planning, public works staff, I am comfortable that this project has been vetted, that there's been information put out, there's been information shared with the Transportation Commission, there's been information shared with the Harbor Bay HOAs, there's been public meetings, and the City Council actually approved the pedestrian, bicycle, and vehicular safety treatments on McCartney Road when we adopted the transportation plan, the pavement management and safety improvements as part of the transportation update in 2025. So while having said that, I also understand that there are a lot of residents on Bay Farm who don't believe that they got sufficient information and who have concerns and maybe have misinformation about what's happening on McCartney Road especially. And I recall and think back to a similar situation in my neighborhood on Gibbons Drive when people didn't have all the information and they were very concerned about what they perceived as being city council, either city council lack of transparency or city staff overreach. And I don't think in this case either of those has happened, but I do agree with my colleague, Councilmember Buller, who lives in the neighborhood and who has made comments and suggested that there should be an opportunity for additional comment. I don't agree with the referral provision to stop any work at this project, and in fact, I would oppose any changes probably in the future. But I think that we could give residents of Bay Farm, residents of Alameda, the opportunity to comment, and that we could absolutely expand our policy of sharing information and our policy of learning more about projects. And let me just close by saying we have a Transportation Commission that's very effective, that spends their volunteer time in this room listening to the technical aspects of many, many road projects and transportation projects and pedestrian safety and those types of things. And that commission approved this plan, and I have full faith in them. But I think what we should do as the City Council is give them more support and give them more input into what we do, and not either we should listen to them and have them present their recommendation and their concerns when we move forward, and so that might be an option. So with that, I will agree with Councilmember Bowler's suggestion that this come back, but not with the potential to halt the project, but with the potential to expand the options for sharing information about projects like this that affect residents.
Thank you, Councilmember Jensen, because I do remember at the last council meeting, you cited a lot of statistics. You'd done some study about all of the, just a minute, about all of the vehicle, as the Vice Mayor noted, all the significant information, info reports we get about bicycle, pedestrian, bicycle,
72
bicycle,
last
auto.
year, yep, 72 accidents,
Yeah.
and I'm not on the
yes.
pedestrian
So
mayor's commission, but I
so
do
as
know
not
Alameda.
to speak over each other, let's just wait to be called on. But I'm just saying, I'm glad to hear you reinforcing the need for safe streets. I will go ahead, Vice Mayor, but what I also want to do is, I believe that perhaps staff is already planning some kind of improved, maybe process of refining the process of public engagement. If that's, give me a high sign or tell me no. If you, is that, there is some truth to that. Hit thumbs up. So, do you want to wait and hear from staff, or do you want to make your comments first, Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I'll just make my
Okay, Vice
comments
Mayor
first. I mean,
Pryor,
because
yeah.
it has to do with this referral. I was going to say, I don't necessarily think that we need to come back again to speak about how we can to go back and forth about, hey, these are things that we could do better. Because I think I trust staff to be able to figure that out and make good choices. And if they want to, at some point, present going forward about this is what we will do next time, I think that's great. I don't oppose that. I just don't want to I don't want to set a timeline on that because I do trust them. And they're busy and we're busy. But we also have that workshop coming up, so I just thought that's also something we could discuss at a priority workshop.
Priority setting workshop.
So
Good point. Okay.
so that's it. So I would not support that, but only because I trust it will get done, and there are other forums for it to happen.
Thank you. And now if I could have, is it you, Public Works Director Aaron Smith, come on up and tell us what's afoot.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council. I'm Erin Smith, City's Public Works Director. So just to clarify what you're wanting me to comment on, Mayor, this is our just reflection on improved engagement.
Yeah, lessons learned. How might you do things differently, not to not make this a safer intersection, but the community engagement part. And I mean, it's something that I struggle with too, how to let people know what we're doing and why we're doing it. And there are new developments all the time that we are capturing. I know your staff is, so just tell us, yeah, if you would, just sort of where would we go from here?
Yeah, great. This project certainly has provided some opportunity on process reflection, and what seems fairly obvious, and City Engineer Scott Wickstrom sort of hinted at this a little bit, but we did take this project to the Transportation Commission. In hindsight's always a little clearer. I think what we can do better when we go to the Transportation Commission is notifying the impacted residents that we're going to the Transportation Commission. And for example, what we do as a couple of weeks before construction, we send out a notice, within a certain defined buffer distance to residents, letting them know construction's upcoming, here's our project manager. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't use that same buffered mailing area to let folks know if we're already going to the Transportation Commission, so do an additional mailing. I think Scott was saying the entire Bay Farm. I think in reflection, I think what's feasible is we would do the same buffer that we're sending out to folks that are impacted by the construction, which is a fairly broad group. And I think that would have helped this process to have more folks informed that we were starting a public discourse about this project at the Transportation Commission. So I think we can commit to doing that anytime we go to the Transportation Commission, to actually notifying of the public hearing.
Thank you for that. And I will share a little bit about what some of the things I've learned from the Mayor's Institute on Pedestrian Safety, that you can do things, you need to communicate about a project before, during, and after the project, and you need to do it in real time. So if this is an area that is a route to school, then during those commute hours, have folks out there in their bright vests with their clipboards, have sandwich board signs with a QR code that you can get more information from, and you communicate before, but also during the project and after. You can do quick build design projects. We're doing a few of those. And then invite the public and invite the council to walking workshops, to actually come and meet, and maybe you divide it into smaller groups so it's safe, but to walk these streets and see what we're doing and why we're doing it. And whenever possible, do it during the times when that street is the busiest. I know Saturday afternoon is sometimes a convenient time, but Wednesday at 8 a.m. is when you really see the school traffic. So I do think there's a lot that we can do. But thank you for your ideas.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Okay.
Madam Mayor?
Yes. Interim City Manager Adam Politzer. We haven't heard from you.
And I too want to thank staff for their hard work and focus on this discussion. And City Attorney and I have been meeting with staff with the very intent to bring an item back to council down the stream. But I think there is a lot of opportunity for us to learn, lessons learned, as we've heard tonight, and then also improve our process. So I think, that would be the direction that we'd be seeking at the staff level, to come back at a date uncertain with an outline of a process and get further direction from council and move this move the whole discussion forward to again relook and reaffirm Vision Zero. Relook at our transportation plan, and some of that will be, some of that will also come during your upcoming budget process when we look at our capital improvement projects as well. So I think that if council is supportive, we would take that direction tonight to come back with a staff report and an overview of a process that improves how we move forward on transportation projects specifically, but maybe even look at other projects as they come forth.
I almost want to ask if you'd like to make that a motion, but probably I should ask someone from the elected body. Thank you for that input. Thank you, both of you, because I know you have been speaking. Okay, Councilmember Daysog.
Well, thank you very much. With all due respect to my colleagues on the dais, I don't really think the issue is adequate public engagement. I don't think that's the issue. I mean, after all, we had already reached out to the Harbor Bay Homeowners Association, and they gave their direction. So I think the question is not just adequate public engagement, but meaningful public engagement. When an entity that you reach out to who has some semblance of legitimacy with regard to representing residents, their concerns ought to be somehow constructively involved. So I don't think the issue is just simply public engagement. Rather, I think at the heart of the issue is, guardrails that I believe we as City Council need to put when it comes to staff members making decisions on a fiat basis. Making decisions in the face of several facts that tell them that they should go back to the City Council. Fact number one, the residents' opposition to the roundabout at Island and McCartney. Fact number two, the position that the Harbor Bay Homeowners Association took. Fact number three, the fact that the major improvements that we did, authorized through the Vision Zero, authorized through the Transportation Choices Plan, authorized through a whole host of documents, still came to City Council. The Lincoln Avenue project, the Fernside project, the Central Avenue project. I get it that if you're parents or family members of children, I get it that safety is utmost. I get it. But by the same token, I think for the process to be served, that we can't just let staff make these kind of decisions. So I would say that there is a deficiency that we've revealed, and I would move that the city council directs the city attorney and the city manager's office to work together to recommend to the city council updates and revisions to city policies and the Alameda Municipal Code, ensuring future construction projects receive appropriate review by the city council, and 2, develop a communication and community engagement plan for future construction projects to ensure meaningful public engagement and inclusion. So we're going to change the municipal
Time's up,
code.
Councilmember Daysog.
That's the motion.
I object to your characterization of city staff making this decision by fiat. We heard thorough explanation from the city engineer of everything that preceded and formed the basis of the decisions at this particular street. I needed to say that for the record. Okay, who else who has time would like to speak?
A question, if Councilmember Daysog wants to make a friendly change to the referral or not.
He'd have to nod his head.
What's the change?
You know, I think the interim city manager had a very good suggestion. I would really like the council to vote to follow that. It'll still come back to the council, but it's been vetted by the city attorney. I think that's a good way to proceed. I would support that.
I was
Vice Mayor
going to say,
Pryor,
I was
please.
also going to support that. And I also want to go take into what our city engineer had said. He said the 3 things to consider: the technical, like, the engineering issue, public engagement issue, and legal authority. So it's really essentially what you guys just said. But I thought that was really succinct, and it really kind of broke it down nicely.
Would you like to make a motion?
Well, I do have a clarifying question. There's no time constraint about when just you will come back? Okay, so I move that at some future date, the city attorney and the acting and/or city manager come back with plans, how we're going to carry out infrastructure projects that include not just the technical specs, but also the public engagement plan and the legal authority.
And maybe in conjunction with staff?
In
relevant
conjunction
staff?
with staff.
Any interest in a second? Okay, well, is there a substitute motion?
Isn't my motion still on the floor? I didn't get a second, by the way.
Councilmember Daysog, against my better judgment, restate your motion if you would, please.
Well, I can, you want me
Oh, wait, yes, better so, the clerk.
So he moved approval of directing the city attorney and city manager to work with,
The recommendation.
yeah, to work with the recommendation to review the city policies and codes to ensure, my writing's really bad.
Guardrails on staff.
Future project for.
Oh, here, you want me to read it?
Thanks.
Here we go. Okay. To address deficiencies, that was that word. To update revisions of city policies or in the municipal code to ensure future construction projects receive appropriate review by the city council and develop a communications and community engagement plan for the future construction of projects to ensure adequate public engagement and inclusion.
I kind of think that's what the city manager was saying, interim city manager was saying, but nonetheless, there is a motion. Did you want to add anything?
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion, there's been a second. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Opposed? Abstention? That was an abstention, Councilmember Jensen?
Yes.
Okay, that did not pass. City Attorney, did you want to make a motion?
Oh, no, I just wanted to clarify whether Councilmember Bowler was seconding
He was.
Councilmember
He was,
Daysog's
right?
motion or Vice Mayor Pryor's motion.
No, he was, I'm sorry, he was second. I would not have gone forward with the vote without it, yes. Councilmember Jensen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to just clarify, I abstained and I didn't support that. I would like to, I think that the city manager coming back and the city attorney have a good idea as well, but I do want to hear from, in some venue, from the concerns of Bay Farm Island residents about the McCartney changes. Not to change it or stop it, but to just hear from our community.
And that was a comment, not a motion, correct? Okay, I will say we do not have a motion that passed. We do have the will by our interim city manager and city attorney, so they will come back with that information. They don't need permission from us. So, all right, that, thank you all for those who spoke, those for bringing the motion. Now, we are going to take a break because we've been going for 2 hours. It's 9:15 now. Let's all be back here by 9:30, please. No later than 9:30, we're starting. Thanks, everyone. With that, I am calling the council meeting back to order. And Madam Clerk, would you introduce the next item? We're going back to our regular programming.
7B is a recommendation to adopt the 2025 Zero Waste Implementation Plan update. This project is categorically exempt from further environmental review pursuant to California Environmental Quality Act Guidelines Section 15308, actions by regulatory agencies for protection of the environment.
Thank you. And is that you, Ms. Lickworth? Come on up. Welcome. And go ahead and introduce yourself. Hello.
All right. Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm Liz Accord, Public Works Coordinator. And the item before you tonight asks City Council to adopt the 2025 Zero Waste Implementation Plan. Our agenda for this item will briefly go over the background of Zero Waste in Alameda, the work completed to update the Zero Waste Implementation Plan, and then we'll shift to the key points of the plan presented to you this evening. We'll first start with a quick overview of Alameda's Zero Waste Implementation Plan, which we for short call the ZWIP, because that's a mouthful. The ZWIP was first adopted in 2010 following the adoption of the 2008 Local Action Plan for Climate Protection. And that initial ZWIP set a goal date for Alameda achieving zero waste by 2020. In 2018, the ZWIP was updated to assess progress towards that goal. And that update included adopting 5 new strategies to continue the 2010 ZWIP and integration of new organics legislation, or what we refer to as Senate Bill 1383. At this time, those 5 strategies have largely been completed and the goal date has passed, and so staff have now prepared the 2025 ZWIP, which focuses on continuing progress towards that 2010 zero waste goal. So what is zero waste for Alameda? Zero waste amounts to 89% diversion of waste materials from landfill, which at the individual level is no more than 1.2 pounds per day of landfill per person. As of 2024 reporting, Alameda's diversion is at 81%, and this represents a good amount of progress to that 89% goal, despite the fact that we have passed the 2020 date. But there's still more work to be done, and that additional work supports the need for preparing this item tonight. Before we go into what the plan tonight recommends, I'll touch briefly on the way we approached this project and the engagement that we conducted, as well as some key takeaways from those efforts. For this project, we focused on an equity approach so that we can bring zero waste programs to all segments of Alameda's community. This is building on the existing zero waste culture that's been built up since 2010 and the adoption of the initial ZWIP. And it focuses on removing barriers to participation, but also continuing to invest in the engagement infrastructure needed to continue the work. As part of that focus for this plan, we had a fairly robust engagement approach. We had 12 community meetings and focus groups. We also conducted a residential survey and then came back to council in late 2024 to share a progress update. So I want to touch briefly on some key takeaways from those outreach efforts. From the meetings and focus groups, we heard pretty clearly that there's a need for an increase in education and outreach, and need to remove some participation barriers for existing programs. We also learned that there's an opportunity to increase diversion for additional types of materials, and to provide opportunities for reuse, and then of course that there should be both incentives and enforcement for zero waste programs. From our survey, we found out that a few of those participants in the survey knew about the ZWIP, but overwhelmingly they did support the program goals. There's a lot of support in Alameda for conservation, and environmental protection is highly motivating to Alamedans. There's low enthusiasm for reusable foodware and some division on the effectiveness of reusable foodware as a zero waste strategy. However, programs like edible food recovery, requiring bins for proper sorting, and the bulky pickup program were all considered very effective. And finally, there's a lot of confusion and a lot of barrier to sorting materials and knowing where materials go in the waste stream. Residents know how to dispose of common items, but are less clear about specialty items or items that aren't as common, and this results in most folks throwing away those items when they're not sure. In addition to the work completed to assess the current programs in the Zero Waste program, these engagement takeaways were fairly critical to developing the 2025 ZWIP that you see tonight. This brings us to the key points of the 2025 ZWIP presented to you this evening. The 2025 ZWIP most notably does not include a specific goal date. It keeps that 89% diversion goal, but instead the plan focuses on taking the work, zero waste work into perpetuity and really continuing to try to increase participation across all segments in Alameda, invest in behavior change, and we'll be reporting to City Council on that progress annually. The ZWIP presents 12 programs, which are collectively estimated to increase Alameda's diversion by 4.46% at maturity of those programs. And while this does not fully close the gap towards that 89% goal, these 12 programs are recommended as critical to furthering our progress in zero waste. As key state waste legislation like Senate Bill 54 move forward and single-use plastics are reduced, there may be additional diversion gains for Alameda, and these programs included in the ZWIP are designed to be flexible and to integrate those changes. The item before you tonight does not include requests for necessary funding for these programs. Staff intend to bring those requests back as part of the budget process if the ZWIP is adopted. And of the 12 programs, staff are recommending 4 as priority programs that would be implemented first, pending approval of funding, of course, and we'll talk a little bit about those programs in the next slide. The 12 programs that are included in the ZWIP are shown here. It's a lot of programs on one slide, but I want to note that they all fall into one of the 4, if not more than one of the 4 categories of focus area for this plan, which are behavior change, waste reduction, increasing reuse, and then improving diversion of our construction and demolition debris materials. The 4 that are bolded are the priority programs that we'll go on to talk about for a moment here. Those 4 priority programs are first conducting a targeted campaign to increase multifamily participation in the bulky collection program. It's that once annual collection pickup that was previously only available to single family customers and extended to multifamily in 2021. We are not having a lot of participation in that program. That's not specifically unique to Alameda, but we do understand that there are specific barriers to participation and considerations for the multifamily community, so we're recommending that this program focus the efforts to increasing that participation. The second program is to conduct enforcement for illegal dumping. Alameda has a really good program for submitting complaints and requests to abate illegal dumping, but we don't have the corresponding enforcement piece for that program, which is really important for the ongoing monitoring and changing some of those, especially hot spots of illegal dumping and perpetual problems. So this program proposes bringing enforcement into the current program for abating illegal dumping. The third and fourth programs are to pilot resources for Alameda's low-income and unhoused communities and address specific barriers for participation. And I will say a few words about Cash for Trash. This would be a pilot program modeled on San Jose's Cash for Trash program, which provides monetary incentive for the unhoused community members to pick up trash and collect trash. These 4 programs are estimated to yield a total of 1.3% increase in diversion at program maturity. So I have a quick overview, as I'm running out of time here, on the costs, both one-time implementation costs and ongoing annual costs for the 4 priority programs. The snapshot of those costs for all 12 programs is included in the attachment to the staff report, so the ZWIP for tonight. And then we also have a quick overview of the estimated change in diversion, and I'll just note that for both cost and the diversion estimates, the pilot programs only have figures for the start of the program because those programs are intended to be pilots and come back after evaluation, and we might conclude that there is additional diversion potential that would warrant the ongoing cost, but we would want to go through the pilot first. So that brings us to where we are tonight. Although staff is focused on moving priority programs forward first, we do recommend City Council approve all of the 12 programs in the 2025 ZWIP as presented tonight. As mentioned, program funding will return as part of future budget actions. And with that, my presentation is complete. I'm available for questions you may have. I'm also joined by our Zero Waste staff team and our consultants with HF&H tonight.
And very impressive timing, Ms. Accord. Madam Clerk, do we have public comment?
Yes.
Okay, so council, do we have any clarifying questions, just clarifying questions before we go to public comment? Okay, let's go right to public comment. Thanks, Ms. Accord.
Our one speaker is Ruth Abbey.
Oh, Ruth Abbey, of course. Welcome, Speaker Abbey.
Good evening, Mayor Izzy Ashcraft, Vice Mayor, and members of the City Council. I'm Ruth Abbey with Community Action for a Sustainable Alameda. We very much support the adoption of the updated Zero Waste Implementation Plan. As you are aware, we have excellent collection and processing infrastructure in Alameda. In fact, we have had the same excellent collection and processing infrastructure since 2001. What we don't have is maximum participation in our collection and processing infrastructure, which is what this plan focuses on: behavior change, community-based social marketing, and outreach and education. And CASA really enjoys and supports being a partner with city staff in implementing these programs. We've collaborated on our reusable cup program. We have expanded that to the Berkeley and to Oakland. We have spearheaded a monthly cleanup program out at Alameda Point in collaboration with the Rec and Park staff. And we have done a lot of support of both public events and schools programs, received grant funding and provide technical assistance to provide that support. And we have recently engaged some interns that have been researching public policy, which is of course their interest, university interns, and they have been researching options for potential future implementation of an updated foodware ordinance, or potentially other aspects of outreach and education to renters so that they can fully participate in our programs. So we're really looking forward to collaborate with city staff about those issues, and you'll maybe seeing a referral coming one of these days. So we really do support the adoption of the plan and full funding as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. That was our only, so with that, we'll close public comment. I did realize, Ms. Accord, I did have one clarifying question. You mentioned in your presentation that reusable foodware just really hasn't caught on. Can you tell us more about that? Those are programs like they'll copy reusable cups, and what else?
Sure.
And
So
why?
we do, I can clarify a little bit about Okapi. We do have a reusable coffee cup program with, I think, now 11 participating cafes across Alameda. And within those users, there's a lot of enthusiasm and support for reusables. What we experienced when we went out and did the residential survey is that there was less support, both less support for extending reusables, perhaps some unawareness of the existing reusable cup program, and then also folks didn't feel like it was an effective strategy. They also told us that they didn't really want to have reusables to go, that process felt cumbersome and clunky, and there wasn't a lot of interest in that part of the program as well.
Okay, well, we tried, but I mean, it still exists, right? Just not.
I'm sorry?
But the program still exists, it's just not.
Okapi does still exist,
it's
yes.
Just not
Yes.
a very big part of the reusables.
Yes,
or
and you can
the-
find a list of those participating cafes on our Public Works Zero Waste page.
I've got the app on my phone. Council, we are open to council comments, discussion, and ultimately approval of this plan. So who'd like to start? Should we start on the left? I feel like I'm always looking to my right. Councilmember Jensen, do you want to lead us off?
Sure, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. And I also will thank CASA and Ruth Abbey and for all of the information and partnership with the City of Alameda. I appreciate the work of Public Works staff, Liz Accord, Mark Green, and Emily Antonin. I often hear applause and accolades for our city staff, for our Public Works staff, because as the chair of the Alameda County Waste Management Authority, I am have some authority to establish the requirements and the regulations for the county that come down and are implemented by our city. And I know that our staff works really hard and really closely with Stop Waste, Alameda County Waste Management staff, to make those improvements and make it easier in our city especially for waste reduction goals, and to comply with state laws, as are mentioned, some of which are mentioned in this report. And so during the last discussion that just ended, this council talked about outreach and how much outreach is enough and what more can we do to ensure that residents have the information that they need to make decisions. And so I really appreciate in the ZWIP report that one of the focus areas will be on outreach, and especially outreach to tenants of multi-unit buildings. So I want to appreciate the priority programs focus, and I think I definitely support that and we need to move forward, but I also want to explore perhaps in the future more rigorous ways to enforce and educate, and that might be using some tools that we use for other requirements for renters and tenants and landlords. And so before I get there, I'm going to point out that recently I did meet with the Brown students that Ruth Abbey mentioned, the interns that came to CASA to do some work on reusable foodware, as well as on tenant waste disposal. And so I was really excited to hear some of their proposals, and one of the things that was suggested that I think could work, first of all, it does work in other cities and other parts of, especially in California, is tenant education and compliance requirements through landlords. And the example that was used and brought forward was that in Alameda we have smoking prohibition in apartment buildings and multi-unit buildings and rentals. And so landlords are required to include in their lease agreement that, and the tenant is required to agree to not smoke in a building. And I heard from the CASA interns, and they made a very, very seemingly appropriate and perhaps, we'll explore it more, but perhaps implementable suggestion that we could use that example of not allowing smoking in buildings to establish a requirement through an ordinance or through another action by this council to require landlords to include waste sorting information in a lease, so that we know and we're assured that tenants have that information, because unfortunately tenants do not often receive ACI updates unless they ask for it from our hauler. They don't receive the service guides unless they go online and look for it. They tend to have much shorter tenure than do homeowners, and there, of course, will be time and language barriers. People aren't often paying attention, but the landlord has requirements as well. And I should say that I've spoken briefly about this to our city attorney, and I know that our rent program does give landlords this information. I know that ZWIP also goes out to buildings and shares with landlord the requirement and the best way to do sorting. And we also have posting requirements to ensure that tenants know if they're paying attention, they know where to sort and how to throw things away if they look at the signage. But that puts a big burden on our staff to go and make sure that that enforcement is on staff and make sure that compliance is happening. So what I will come forward with in the future is a suggestion through the referral process, most likely, to work with our rental program to develop, after the city council could take an action, to develop some provisions in our lease language, lease examples, similar to what we have for to implement the no smoking ordinance in the city, so that we can be more assured and comfortable and confident that especially tenants of multi-unit buildings are sorting. And landlords are aware of this as well. That would be, the burden would be on them. And I'll just close by saying, again, the report also addresses the issue of illegal dumping, and that could be part of some future outreach and some future specific compliance provisions that I would suggest. So I'll be working with you, Liz. We'll be talking. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Jensen. Vice Mayor Pryor?
Oh, I was just going to say, I really liked Councilmember Jensen's, I thought it was thoughtful. Like, we do have smoking bans in public buildings and apartments. So it would be interesting to see what we could come up with regards to sorting trash. I always say it's one of my, I always joke, it's one of my favorite things. I love to sort trash. I do appreciate when I first moved to Alameda years and years ago, but just having the 3 receptacles, you know, you get in the habit. It's a very easy habit. And I think it's really important. One of the things I do as a teacher, I've shown pictures of landfills to my students and like, this is your future, which is why you need to recycle. So I think this is so important. I love that we're, you know, getting closer to our goals. So I just want to appreciate everything you've done. And really, that's it. I just think this is great.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Bowler.
No, I just really want to thank staff for this update today. It's exciting to see the progress, and I feel that Councilmember Jensen is onto a few things over there, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what she possibly brings forward next with that. And because it really feels like that educational piece is just such an important part of it, and you know, anything we can do to be collaborative in different pieces of the community, which we are already doing a lot, but anything more would be great.
Thank you. Councilmember Daysog.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Very much appreciated. Look forward to implementing, you know, the various proposals that you have there. I think, you know, the improvements that we've done with regard to reducing any amount of waste to landfill. I think we should certainly be proud of the successes we had. But I think with this program, we should hopefully enjoy even more successes. So can't wait to, you know, the program that you bring forward for when the budgeting time comes.
And lastly, I want to thank you for bringing this forward. Ruth Abbey, hi, I see you there. Thank you for all that you and CASA have done over the years, really decades, to keep us on track and just to support these important initiatives, and also to bring the next generation in to work with students. And this is always, you know, this is our future, and this is how we're going to go forward. So, and then just a reminder, I remember last year I heard from a couple of businesses. It's always challenging sometimes for businesses to be able to implement some of these new regulations and to work with their financial and other constraints, but I know it is like so many other things, just a matter of communication and education and some more communication. But I'm really proud of all the work that our city has done because of great staff and great community partners like Ruth, Abby, and Casa. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And with that, I am looking for a recommendation that we adopt the 2025 Zero Waste Implementation Plan update, but it's so much more fun to say ZWIP, ZWIP. So who would like to, Councilmember Jensen, perhaps you'd like to make that motion?
I'd like to move approval of the update. Thank you.
Councilmember Jensen approves, and the Vice Mayor, who loves to sort trash, would like to second.
I second, yes.
All right, we've had a motion by Councilmember Jensen, seconded by Vice Mayor Pryor. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye. Aye. That was 5 ayes, correct? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody. All right, moving on to item 7C, Madam Clerk.
Workshop to receive an update and provide feedback on disposition strategy for leasing and sale of properties within the reuse area at Alameda Point.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Are you good with 10 minutes for your prezi?
I'm going to make it work.
You're going to make it work? That's what I like to hear. All right.
It's 10 o'clock, so.
All right, yes. 10 minutes at 10 o'clock, let's do it.
Great. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Abby Thorne-Lyman. I am the Director of Base Reuse and Economic Development, and I'm here tonight to provide you with an update on the disposition strategy for properties in the reuse area of Alameda Point. I'm going to start with a little overview of the disposition strategy that was presented to Council in spring of 2023, share a little bit of updated information on what we've done since then, and seek your feedback on the recommended work plan that the Base Reuse and Economic Development team has in store for 2026 and 2027. First, a little bit of background. I know you're all familiar with the Master Infrastructure Plan, or MIP, but for those who are not, this is a foundational document that guides the sale and lease of properties at Alameda Point, as well as, of course, the implementation of infrastructure. The Master Infrastructure Plan was adopted by City Council in 2014 and updated again in 2020. And it provides us a literal roadmap of where all of the various backbone infrastructure will go throughout Alameda Point, what it will look like, and how much it will cost. And this doesn't just guide roads, wet and dry utilities that are under the roads, parks, open space, recreational needs, multi-mobility needs, transit, and sea level rise adaptation. So it provides us with a fantastic reference point for where we're trying to head. In 2020, the cost estimate for the total package of remaining infrastructure was $700 million. We recently completed a cost estimate and found the current price tag for the total remaining infrastructure is $900 million. I would like to differentiate how we're delivering the master infrastructure plan for the reuse areas versus the development areas. So in the development areas, we really rely on private master developers to provide us with that infrastructure generally as consideration for the value of our land. Whereas in the reuse area, we're selling properties in a much more fragmented way. And so we're really, we're taking a leadership role here where we are piecing the money together through the sale of these properties. And the city, namely the Public Works Department, is leading on the implementation of the infrastructure in the reuse area. In the reuse area, we are guided by 3 phases of development. These were established in a 10-year East Bay Mud water infrastructure agreement. This agreement was put in place because East Bay Mud has a requirement that we cannot sell property to a private entity if it is not connected to their water system. Currently, areas without East Bay Mud water systems are operating on the existing the existing Navy-era water infrastructure, although East Bay Mud is providing the water. As of 2025, Public Works had completed the full backbone package for the Phase 1 infrastructure loop, which is fantastic, and they completed the full water loop for Phase 2. So they've made tremendous progress. And now it is Base Reuse and Economic Development's turn to do the disposition of more land to help raise money for the Phase 2 infrastructure. So the disposition strategy as brought to Council in 2023 really focuses on selling land in areas where the backbone infrastructure has already been completed under the theory that streets, areas with new infrastructure have higher value land adjacent. So we're actually able to capitalize and recapture some of the value that we have added to that land by building these new backbone infrastructure and the new streets. So that is still our plan, and we are still proceeding with the sale of property in areas that are connected to the Phase 1 loop. So just as a reminder, this is West Tower Avenue, Saratoga Street, West Midway Avenue, and Pan Am Way. So we brought to City Council in closed session the sale of Building 92, so we are working through the negotiation of that right now, and we are intending to proceed with the sale of other properties that are adjacent to the Phase 1 loop. Now, sorry, I just want to go over a couple of other of the goals here that were brought forward in the disposition strategy. So in addition to maximizing land value by focusing on the Phase 1 loop area, we also see benefit in retaining some of the high-value leasing assets until our own operational and property management costs are reduced. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in just a second. But also maintaining flexibility, and I think you guys hear this from me a lot, that it's important for us to be nimble, be opportunistic, take offers as they arise and consider them and decide if they're the best for the city. So we're open to other opportunities, but our focus is really around that Phase 1 loop. For those who are not familiar with the way that the revenue flows at Alameda Point, under the Economic Development Conveyance Agreement with the Navy, all proceeds from the lease or sale of property at Alameda Point are to be reinvested in the long-term job creation and economic redevelopment of or related to the property at the former base until 2037. So what that means is we are accounting for those revenues separately, and generally we have operated under the premise that year-to-year lease revenues pay for the operating expenses of Alameda Point, where the sale of land, the sale of assets, that money is reinvested into the capital improvements, into the infrastructure primarily. What's really important about this is if you look at where those Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3 loops are, you'll see that the Phase 3 loop connects a lot of our more challenging properties. It connects our historic properties that are often vacant or blighted, and we do not want to be caught in a scenario where that's all that the city has left, and we have a huge operating burden and no lease revenue to show for it. So I do think there is some value in being creative and contemplating the future of those historic vacant buildings as we are going forward, trying to dispose of the Phase 1 and deliver the infrastructure, if that makes sense. So I consider our team to really be curating the future here. It is really important for us to be kind of fiscally balancing these kinds of transactions. The new infrastructure, the second Phase 2 loop is where our focus is. The backbone infrastructure is estimated to cost $43 million for that Phase 2 loop. That's net of the water line that was installed. I would also note that that 2027 is next year, so we do have to renegotiate that agreement with East Bay Mud. So as I mentioned, the cost of that infrastructure package has gone up. We all know we've experienced a period of significant inflation since 2020. Unfortunately, the value of our land and our assets has not gone up correspondingly. That's partly, due to the softening of the market related to COVID. But I would remind the council that we approved a deal earlier this year that was for $2.25 million per acre. In order to deliver the full $900 million master infrastructure plan just relying on land sales, we would have to achieve a price per acre of $2.55 million for all of the remaining acreage at Alameda Point. So I'm not sure this place can pay for itself. That's the bottom line. The seed I'm planting for you, we really need to start looking for grants and external funding sources. And I want to focus on 3 properties very briefly that I just like to focus on for the next 2-year work plan. One is Building 41. This is 650 West Tower. It is connected to the Phase 1 loop. However, I do want to note it is still owned by the Navy. Staff's recommendation is, regardless of the fact that it is owned by the Navy, we would like to proceed with a long-term ground lease with an option to purchase when it is conveyed by the Navy, because we do believe this is one of our highest value assets. We also would like to propose that, though it is not on the Phase 1 loop, we consider the disposition of the Building 11-412 complex at West Tower Avenue and Monarch Street. The reason for this is that this building is obviously tremendously valuable, but it does need a $12 million roof replacement. And our concern is we're going to be ending up spending more capital on the repairs of the buildings than we are on our new infrastructure. And also, this is a 300,000 plus square foot building, and we believe a private developer could do a much better job of demising it and leasing it than we could. And then lastly, we would like to propose that we give some consideration to the Bachelor Enlisted Quarter Complex, which obviously is a major burden for Alameda Point. This whole complex is largely vacant with the exception of a couple of the wings of Building 2. And we really want to just explore creative options for the disposition of this property and the adaptive reuse of this property. It's also one of the few properties that is zoned to accommodate residential uses. So with that, I just want to conclude by reiterating our two-year work plan here, that our intent is to continue to focus on the Phase 1 loop, sale of Building 92, sale of Building 7, and Lot 101 and 114, look at a long-term lease for Building 41, and be open to the other opportunities that come our way. And I will just conclude with an image of everything I just said. Thank you for your time.
And look at you with 11 seconds to spare. Good work. Thank you. Council, any clarifying questions for Ms. Thorne-Lyman? Councilmember Jensen?
Would the potential Building 41 sale, would that terminate the lease with Deep Ocean Exploration?
So their lease is up in the fall of this year. So we will need to contemplate a long-term future home for them. And so it would actually be best for us to start to think about the long-term future of the building so that they can gain some certainty in where they're going to be.
Thank you. And how would the Building 400 adjacent to Building 11 and 12 be? When or how would the schedule be for that to be conveyed?
That's a good question. There's some due diligence we have to do because Building 400 is in fact owned by the Navy as well. So this is going to be a very complicated transaction. So I think we actually have a lot more due diligence to do. It's sort of the beginnings of an idea, but like, for example, one of the things we need to explore is because we would continue to own the middle until the Navy conveys it to us, would we need to create better firewalls between the three buildings, which right now there's kind of just these hangar doors dividing the spaces up.
In the presentation, it says Phase 3 conveyance, Phase 3C conveyance. Does that at some point or timeline or?
Oh, yeah, that is confusing, especially because I was using phases to refer to the infrastructure. The Phase 3C is the Navy's conveyance phase. So they have conveyed phases 1 through 3B. So Phase 3C is their next conveyance. So that is comprised of the Building 41, the Building 400 complex, and a little bit of property near the Pacific Fusion, the former Pacific Fusion site.
So you anticipate having Building 400 sometime along when Building 40, or around the same time as Building 41? Is that?
They would be conveyed simultaneously.
Okay, great. Thanks for your help.
Mm-hmm.
Any other clarifying questions, Council Vice Mayor Pratt?
I just have a quick question. So it sounded like you had said that based on the expense of where the site was, where Pacific Fusion was, hopefully, they didn't go, but that you're going to start looking into a grant. Do you know, like, how much we're going to ask and what the timeline is to, write the grant and submit it, and if it gets approved, like what is there, anyway, I was just trying to get more information.
Yes, so my reference to a grant is just that we need to look at outside funding opportunities available to us. Obviously, sea level rise adaptation is one area. I think we need to be thinking about areas where grants are available. That's one. Another one that some of our tenants have been encouraging me to look at is the Port Infrastructure Development Program. That is a federal grant that could actually repair the piers. So I think it's just really our way of saying we should not be assuming this place is going to pay for itself and just really start looking for the opportunities that exist. I mean, obviously, we're looking for grants for DPAVE Park, which is part of the MIP. So.
Oh, great. Yeah, great. Thank you.
Councilmember Bowler.
Thank you. Have you looked at other structures in terms of I know you mentioned grants, but we got that letter yesterday from Common Ground. I don't know if you had a chance to look at that.
Yes, I did.
I don't know to what extent historically the staff has looked at things like that, long-term ground rents and how that could possibly back revenue bonds, things of that nature.
Yeah, we have looked at revenue bonds, and in fact, Kaiser Marston did look at revenue bonds for the 2023 disposition strategy effort, and it's certainly an approach we could consider. We don't have to back it necessarily with a long-term ground lease. It could be backed with any kind of steady source of income. But, you know, we haven't dived into the bond market or really contemplated that because our strategy has been really focused on the sale of land. So if that's a direction council would like us to see, go look at more financing options, you know, that certainly, we're open to that.
I mean, it definitely seems worth taking a look at, right? Kind of diving into and just getting a better sense of it because we have these challenges now. So looking at all the options would seem to make sense.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And in that letter, they do propose ground leases, and I do have thoughts on that, but that's not the question you asked me. Okay. So, but I mean, I would just generally say you do a ground lease when you are looking for when you have a reason to continue to own the land in the long term, and that's not really the direction the city's taken since it started receiving the land. And there's other ways if you want to be capturing revenue on the long-term basis and be capturing the gains, you can do that through a sale as well. There's things you can build into the deal structure where you get a share of the profits when it's sold, for example. So, yeah.
Right, and just that overall, kind of the premise of some of that discussion was around the idea of when the market's slow, you don't necessarily want to sell your valuable assets, right? You want to find a way to stay the course until it improves. But I don't pretend to know where we are exactly in terms of the market, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I think there were some really compelling thoughts and ideas in that letter for sure. And I would just say that on that one, like our assets are not appreciating in value, they're depreciating because when we received them from the Navy, they already had deferred maintenance. I recently found a letter from the mayor at the time saying, Navy, you need to do a better job of maintaining these. So we have this deferred maintenance problem, and it's just becoming more and more of a burden on the city, and it's causing the assets to depreciate themselves. So when we're looking to sell these buildings, we're finding they need a new roof, they need structural work, and so that's coming out of our land value as it is. So I think the challenge is that the value of our assets is not correspondingly strengthening as the market strengthens because the assets themselves need so much work. And I would also just add that our goal as a city, as far as I am aware, is not really to generate the maximum amount of revenue. It's to create the best place and generate the most economic development. And doing that, creating that momentum and doing that more quickly has other added benefits to the city that I think we also just need to be balanced into that equation. I'm not saying we shouldn't make money. Of course we should make money, but just that we're trying to achieve other things too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Councilmember Desa, any clarifying questions?
Yeah, in terms of, as you said, achieving other things, do we capture any, do we contemplate or do we already capture any amount of the sales proceed and set it aside for, say, the long-discussed regional sports park or even transportation, long-term transportation solutions out of Alameda Point?
That's a very good question. As far as, obviously I have not been, I don't have a very long tenure at the city, and so I don't know how we've done things in the past. I do know that in 2023, we had amassed quite a fund balance in the Alameda Point Fund that did go towards investments in the Phase 1 infrastructure, and I think we've been thinking a little bit more piecemeal than that. I guess that's what I would say my impression is that it's really, okay, we've done Phase 1, now let's do Phase 2, and not thinking holistically in terms of like, well, let's set aside little pots of funds, for those long-term infrastructure improvements. I guess that would be how I have seen in my 2 years of observation that things have been done.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I don't have any clarifying questions, but I appreciate your report. But we do have, and please have a seat. We have public comment next. Thank you.
The first speaker is Mitch Ball.
Is he remote?
Oh, no, he left.
I think he's absent.
Then we
so-
only have
okay,
one now.
one speaker.
Paul Busterian.
Remote?
Yes.
All right. Welcome, Speaker Busterian.
Hi, everyone. This is Paul Busterian. I wanted to speak in support of biasing towards selling more of the Point property. I think it would be great to get that cash infusion for the much-needed infrastructure out there. And I want to really focus on the property management side of it. I've watched several city council meetings over the last few years where property management has taken up a lot of time and complexity. I've seen potential leasers come to meetings, wait till 11 o'clock, get postponed to the next month, and then wait till 11 o'clock the next meeting. Then they have go through like a beauty contest without clear concrete requirements. It doesn't seem great for either the potential leasers or for the city. There's been landlord challenges both with businesses and individuals. I think the city is really good at dealing with property owners, dealing with landlords, and helping landlords treat their tenants well. But doesn't seem like the core expertise for the city. There's a lot of important things the city can work on. So I think getting out of the landlord business is a good direction to go. I understand there's good reasons for to do some leasing, but I'd be supportive of strongly biasing a lot more toward property sales. Thanks.
And that's the extent of our speakers. Okay, with that, we will close public comment. And I want to thank Ms. Thorne-Lyman for always insightful report and overview of this. And I just want to say something that is sort of implied in this report, that, not that Ms. Thorne-Lyman brought it up, but we have had, since the beginning, with the conveyance from the Navy to the city, this policy of fiscal neutrality for Alameda Point. And for a long time, really going back to when I was on the planning board before I was ever on the city council, I've thought that that isn't quite fair. And that is not to say that the city is swimming in money. But when we look at Alameda Point that way as fiscal neutrality, we must not have any funding from the main island for Alameda Point. It really is setting up an us versus them dynamic at a time when from the beginning, when the Navy conveyed this property, our goal was to make it feel like one continuous city. And I would also note that we ask a lot of Alameda Point. We have a ferry terminal out there that is very robust and busy during the work week, because that's when the Seaplane Lagoon ferry runs. But we have people certainly from half of the island coming to take the ferry from there. It is also has housed Alameda Point Collaborative, formerly Homeless Individuals and Families and Others, Operation Dignity and Building Futures. We're providing transitional housing. We're able to provide transitional housing for people who are emerging from homelessness, not quite ready to live on their own, but we've taken some of our big whites, some of our townhomes, and transitioned them to supportive transitional housing. The Oak Club out at Alameda Point supports many nonprofits with the events that it holds. And so all of those uses bring people to and from Alameda Point. And just, I'm not saying that revelation or that realization is going to change the things that we need to do, but I would like us to just update our thinking. I realize it's still a policy, but I don't think that we need to so much say, oh no, only revenue generated at Alameda Point can be used for Alameda Point. That said, we have a whole city budget that we need to balance, so we need to keep our eye on a lot of balls. I think you've laid out a great plan. It is somewhat daunting. I also think that, well, things are going to get better. They have to get better economically. At the same time, those properties are just going to be getting older, so we do need to do what we can when we can do it. I think that Ms. Thorne-Lyman, you and your department have laid out a really good strategy for us, and I think we stay the course on that with, as you said, the need to pivot, to stay flexible if we see the market changing in a certain way or a particular sector might present itself as an opportunity. I know we were bereft not to get Pacific Fusion, but at least they went to another state. But we really considered that a great trial run for, putting together, I thought, an excellent proposal. And I know from talking to the executive team at Pacific Fusion that it wasn't for lack of opportunities that they went to New Mexico. It really was economic. They very much love this place. I think some other users will present themselves. Right now, I would say the whole economy is kind of in a holding pattern, just with a lot of uncertainty and flux out there. But anyway, I appreciate you bringing all these eye-popping numbers to us. We need to be aware of that, and I think the strategy that you've laid out is sound, and I am certainly in favor of, this is a report, but I certainly support and approve everything that you've brought forward to us, so thank you for that. Across the dais, anyone else wants to weigh in? Vice Mayor.
Just really quickly, the report was so thoughtful. You have presented us with creative options, and I appreciate you just knowing, or even stating that we're going to have to stay flexible, and thank you. You work really hard, and I feel, it's like the mayor had just said, like when you're like, well, we have buildings, as the property might grow in value, but the buildings are just not. They're doing the opposite. So thank you for working hard and trying to come up with long-term solutions. So I appreciate your hard work. Thanks.
Anything further? Thank you so much. We really appreciate all your work and look forward to continuing to work with you. All right, with that, Madam Clerk, will you introduce the next item? My iPad has come to the time in the evening when it's completely frozen.
It's tired too. 7D, introduction of ordinance authorizing the interim city manager to execute a new lease with Kai Concepts LLC, a California limited liability company, for 60 months for a portion of building 168 located at 1651 Viking Street, Alameda, California, and a lease with Kai Concepts LLC for 60 months for a portion of Pier 1 located at Alameda Point, Alameda, California. In accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act, this action is categorically exempt from further environmental review pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15301, existing facilities, and 15061B3, common sense.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. My name is Annie Cox. I'm a management analyst with the Base Reuse and Economic Development Department. And I am here today to present our staff recommendation that council consider approving 2 leases with Kai Concepts, who is an existing tenant, for a portion of both Building 168 and Pier 1, both located at Alameda Point. Both proposed leases are located within the Enterprise District in close proximity to each other, as illustrated here by the red stars and on the right in more detail. So the first proposed lease is for Building 168. It's located at 1651 Viking Street. This former Navy storage warehouse was constructed in 1946 and conveyed to the city in 2013. It is a non-historic structure that sits outside the state tidelands. The proposed lease premises include approximately 28,000 square feet of interior space of Building 168 and just over 17,000 square feet of adjacent yard space. The warehouse is divided into 2 suites. The other occupant is Marad. They are a long-term tenant, and there are no conflicts of use. Pier 1 is located on the south side of Seaplane Lagoon. It sits on state tidelands property that was conveyed to the city in 2016. The pier is not a contributing historic structure. The proposed lease is for non-exclusive use of a portion of the pier for launching and retrieving watercraft. Power Engineering also leases the pier, and there are also no conflicts of use. So a little bit about the tenant. Kai Concepts has been the city's tenant in good standing for many years, employing a professional team of engineers, sailors, and software developers who build and test a number of innovative technologies, including kites for large-scale water propulsion and e-foils for water sports. Building 168's proximity to the pier allows the tenant to efficiently build and test their designs. The use is consistent with the general plan policies for Alameda Point. So the new lease terms, the negotiated leases both use the city's new lease template. Each is for a term of 5 years with no renewal options. They have a combined monthly base rent of $27,150 with an annual increase of 3%, and they hold the tenant responsible for all utilities, taxes, and fees. For the Building 168 lease, the city has an exclusive right to terminate with 6 months prior notice, whereas the Pier 1 lease includes a relocation right with a 90-day notice. The proposed lease rates are a 3% increase over the tenant's current rent and reflects fair market value for the use, particularly considering the shorter term duration and the city's termination rights. Given the information provided, staff asked that council approve the first reading of the ordinance authorizing the interim city manager to execute these leases with Kai Concepts. The rationale for this recommendation is as follows. First, these two leases contribute significant revenue of over $1.7 million over the 5-year term. Second, they allow a well-established tenant in good standing to continue blue tech research and development in alignment with the city's economic development strategic plan. Third, the shorter-term nature of the leases and termination rights allow the city flexibility regarding future development opportunities within the enterprise district. And finally, the tenant will continue to occupy and maintain the premises, thereby reducing security concerns at Alameda Point. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present these two leases. I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you to you. Any clarifying questions, council? Okay, my only clarifying question was when this item came to our agenda meeting, it was like, why have we never heard of them? We were looking at the website, it's pretty cool. Anyway, do we have public comment? Okay. No public comment. Well, council, I think at this point, we're probably just looking for a motion to approve the first reading of this ordinance.
So moved.
We've had a motion by, was that a second on the left side of the dais? The left side of the dais is very active, and I've got my iPad back. So we've had a motion by Vice Mayor Pryor, seconded by Councilmember Jensen. Any further discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by stating aye. Aye. All right, that motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Let's queue up item 7E, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Introduction of ordinance authorizing the interim city manager to execute a 5-year lease agreement in an amount not to exceed $783,636 with G&I 9 Marina Village Office Park LP for approximately 6,944 square feet of office space located at 1001 Marina Village Parkway to serve as the Alameda Fire Department administration facility. In accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act, this action is categorically exempt from further environmental review pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15301, existing facilities, and 15061B3, common sense.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. I'm Nicholas Luby, your fire chief for the Alameda Fire Department. This evening, we'll be presenting a leasing proposal to consolidate fire admin staff and relocate the fire administration offices. The item before you this evening is to enter into a 5-year lease with Marina Village Office Park for a total cost of $783,636 over the 5 years. Lease represents a fiscally viable solution that the annual costs can be fully supported within the department's existing budget and implemented by July 2026. Entering this agreement will improve operational efficiency by consolidating fire administration functions, allow the department to begin implementing the first phase of recommendations from the facilities report that was completed, and enhance health and safety for both the crews assigned to Fire Station 1 along with fire admin staff. Why does this matter? The facilities analysis identified that Fire Station 1 is missing several critical functional spaces, including adequate storage, fitness and wellness areas, adequate gender-inclusive restrooms, and fully functional kitchen capable of supporting 27 assigned personnel. Station also lacks appropriate contamination control and decontamination rooms, separate turnout gear storage areas away from the apparatus, and require improvements to building systems and seismic upgrades. The decontamination, as we talked about in the workshop, is the cancer reduction for the workforce of the firefighters. Facilities report also identified that the current fire administration footprint is undersized and does not allow for staff consolidation that supports effective collaboration and coordination among the fire admin staff and between the divisions. Fire administration personnel are currently dispersed across 5 offices in the city. This proposal would allow 3 of those divisions, fire administration, fire prevention, and emergency medical services, to co-locate at the Marina Village location. The facility also has the capacity to accommodate the future relocation of other staff as needed. The proposed solution, or the proposed facility, is located at 1001 Marina Village Parkway and consists of a ground floor office space with a dedicated public entryway. Space is just under 7,000 square feet and will accommodate the current fire admin staff, and as I stated earlier, does have room for some future growth as needed. Strategic benefits from this proposal. The proposal directly supports the following city council priorities: enhancing public safety and modernizing infrastructure. The proposal enables planning for the recommended improvements to Fire Station 1 to commence while simultaneously providing stable and functional work environment for fire administration staff. New office facility includes sufficient space to support fire administration operations and can be utilized as a department operations center if needed during disasters. Department operations centers would support department operations, while the emergency operations center supports overall citywide operations during disasters. The relocation also enhances customer service. Currently, community members frequently visit fire administration on Park Street and come to inquire about fire prevention items, only to be told that fire prevention is located at City Hall West, sometimes requiring them to make the drive over to City Hall West. We try not to do that, but to have one-stop shop for some of these services will increase customer service and also comes with an abundance of parking for the residents if they do come to fire administration. In addition, there are times when administrative staff must work alone in their offices because sworn personnel are out in the field conducting inspections or other duties. Consolidating staff into a single location will ensure that office personnel do not have to work alone when interacting with the public. And finally, the new facilities parking lot includes 10 level 3 EV charging stations with plans for future expansion. I bring that up because the department we're focused on trying to become compliant with EV vehicles. Currently, none of the fire facilities have EV charging capabilities. This will allow us to work closely with Public Works and maybe buy our first emergency or electric vehicles for staff assignments. The red circles on the screen designate the 3 divisions that would be moving, and the Marina Village is the star that's on the screen for the location. So additional strategic impacts on this slide illustrates the recommendation from the facilities analysis for Fire Station 1, which propose repurposing of the space currently occupied by fire administration. That's the area in the red circle. This area identified, this would be converted to support Station 1's operational and support needs. So the recommendation from RRM was to move fire admin to open up the space for Station 1's needs that they have identified without increasing the footprint of the building. So the plan would be no expansion of the existing building to reduce overall costs associated with any remodel tied to the project. The lease would commence on July 1st, 2026, with access to the space provided in April to allow the department to begin the move-in and transition process at no cost. Monthly rent for the first year will be $12,000 $12,000, which is approximately 64% below current market rate for comparable office space in the East Bay. Lease includes an annual rent escalation of 3%. Utilities, mobile security, and building maintenance are included in the lease agreement. As part of the agreement, the landlord will complete a lobby build-out and has approved installation of department signage at the entryway to the building. Total rent cost for the 5 years, as I stated earlier, $783,636, and will be funded through existing departmental budget allocations, along with operational cost savings from consolidation. These savings include reduction in internal service fund charges associated with our current offices at City Hall West. Photocopier leases will be reduced, and other expenses currently incurred by operating in separate administrative locations. To ensure the department has adequate funding to support the transition, a one-time budget request of $250,000 will be included in the mid-year budget. The department plans to also use existing budget allocations to cover as much of the move-related costs as possible, including network connectivity, new furniture as needed, IT configurations, installation of media platforms, and the signage. As the city continues to navigate a path forward to address long-term infrastructure needs, leasing offers a financially feasible near-term option. The facilities analysis estimates that constructing a new fire administration building in conjunction with, say, a new fire station 5 at Alameda Point or a training facility would add approximately $20 million to the overall project cost. So leasing office space could become a long-term option if adequate funding is not identified to include a fire admin in any future builds. Staff recommendations to approve an ordinance authorizing interim city manager to execute a 5-year lease agreement with Marina Village Parkway for 1001 Marina Village at 1001 Marina Village Parkway to serve Alameda Fire Department's consolidation and administrative facility. Thank you. Available for questions.
Thank you, Chief. Nice job. I've got a question on the presentation. What page is that? It's the one that says strategic impact. It's the site plan for Station 1. Where exactly would the expanded decontamination area be?
It would be in an area that comes off the apparatus space. So it's a decontaminant. And this is just a rough rendering that RM did. So obviously it's not architect ready to build rendering, but it would be off the apparatus area with the idea that firefighters who come back from whether they're going on medical calls or firefighter calls, and we have a decontamination room or corridor where they can clean up if they have to disrobe.
I know what it's for. It's really important, but you're vacating the administrative offices, which are like closer to Park Street, right along Park Street, but isn't the apparatus space still going to need to house apparatus?
Yes, I'm not quite, so
But
something will move in the existing firehouse to make room for the decontamination area. Is that kind of what you're?
Just
yes,
wondering
that's
where
that's
it
what
will
would
be.
happen. Something,
Okay.
something whether the day room or the dining room gets
I see.
reconfigured to
Okay.
make room for the decon, and then that would get pushed into the fire administration building.
Okay, the decon would be in the fire administration building as opposed to.
Decon would be in a decon would be in a place that the staff would have to go through before they go into the living space, which would be probably in the existing firehouse, requiring relocation of other certain functions in that portion of the building to fire admin.
Because I know that was one of the benefits of opening up the space there. Okay, thank you for that. And Madam Clerk, do we have public comment on this item?
We do not.
Okay, so council, you can go hog wild. You can ask your questions, you can make comments. Well, don't go hog wild. But yes, let's start with Councilmember Jensen.
Thank you. Chief, do you look at other sites, or how did you arrive at this particular site?
Well, we looked at city sites, or looked for spaces in the city. Unfortunately, City Hall West, City Hall is completely full. We spoke to Base Reuse about other possible buildings. The only other possible office space that's in usable condition that wouldn't need a significant investment are the Bachelor Enlisted quarters in Building 2. That is currently being utilized by other tenants.
Thank you.
Sure.
Vice Mayor Pryor.
Hi. We had talked earlier, but I just wanted to ask this publicly. So is this setup, this consolidation of, is it the industry norm? Like,
Yes, it's, most fire departments, at least administrative divisions, are all consolidated under one roof for efficiency, collaboration, coordination. I believe, talking to others in this organization, because I'm the new person at 4 years, but it's just over time that the city has grown, the work assignments have increased, the responsibilities of the fire department has increased, and the space just did not exist from a 1960s building that was built for fire administration. So as that happened, such as fire prevention was reopened, they had to find locations throughout the city. So that's why we are dispersed over 5 locations.
yeah, and then I'll just go with my comment, which is, oh gosh, my mind went blank.
Come back to you if you like.
Yes, thank you, sorry.
Back to you,
It was
Councilmember
related in
Bowler.
there.
No worries.
Thanks, Chief. Libby, we appreciate you and the presentation. It seems like there's a lot of different opportunities for synergy here between not just the combining, some of the geography, possibly cost savings, sounds like, is part of it to get to that that goal, and then the fact that that particular, the building could possibly be used in the long term if that's necessary. So I don't have any particular questions about that. It sounds like a pretty good solution to move our infrastructure needs along, because obviously with Fire Station 1 needing the enhancements and improvements, ultimately what this means is a better service for the residents. It's not just about admin costs and admin enhancements, which have their own benefits, but it sounds like ultimately we get a better service for our residents because we get a better fire station for direct service too.
100%, and also a fire admin that's working cohesively towards serving the community. Not saying that we don't now, but being geographically separated does make its challenges. One thing I did want to add is our vacating of the City Hall West office spaces. Already Public Works and other departments are already looking at, are bursting at the seams within their departments, and that space will be used very quickly by other city departments. So it's not going to go sit vacant very long, is my understanding.
You should bargain with them for.
Pardon?
You should bargain with them.
I know.
Was that all for you, Councilmember Bowler? Okay. Councilmember Daysog.
Yes, first of all, I want to thank Chief Luby for responding to email/text question that I had raised. And I think for the purposes of the public, I'll reiterate it again so that the public can hear the response. So I asked, why couldn't the Emergency Operations Center be utilized for this purpose?
Thank you for the question. Emergency Operations Center is a very mission-focused, task-purpose building to be there in our worst days, disaster response. So the main floor of that building sits in a state of readiness. We really couldn't occupy it as day-to-day offices because it has to be ready to go at a moment's notice. We also do use that space for city meetings and city trainings, while maintaining a state of readiness, but it's not configured in a way that we could have cubicles and such forth there. There are 2 spaces on the ground floor that are offices, breakout rooms, and currently are occupied by 2 emergency management staff members, and that is it for office space there.
Great, well, thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay, back to you, Vice Mayor.
Sorry, this was just my comment, that I was saying, Alameda is growing, we have the housing element, we have more fires more often, we have sea level rise, so making this change now makes sense. So I just wanted to say that.
And I'll just wrap up by saying I met recently with the landlord, not about this, about something else. They're very excited to have you coming. Council probably recalls that APD has a substation out at Marina Village Business Park, and they like the public safety aspect of that. I think this is a great a great idea, and I'm fully in support of it. So I am just looking for a motion to introduce this ordinance and a second. You're nodding your head. Councilmember Bowler, is that a motion? So moved by Councilmember Bowler, seconded by, is that you with your hand up? Vice Mayor Pryor. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. That was unanimous. That passed unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sorry to
Appreciate
keep you
it.
up a bit
No,
past your
thank you
bedtime.
for staying.
Oh, yeah, well,
Appreciate
we don't leave before a meeting's over. Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, let's go into item 8, City Manager Communications, Interim City Manager Adam Pulitzer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have no report for this evening, but happy to respond to any questions from the council.
Lovely music to our ears. Madam Clerk, do we have any public oral communication, only if the officer or fire staff want to make any? Okay, we've already taken care of the council referrals, so then we will go to council communications. Council members, oops, and there's our, that was my timer that we'd have to make a motion if we had an item, but we don't. Okay, starting on my right, Councilmember Daysog, any well, you want to start, Councilmember Bowler?
I actually don't have anything.
Okay, I'll take that, Councilmember Daysog.
All right, I just want to say, along with Mayor Ezzy Ashcraft, attended the grand reopening of the football field, soccer
Beautiful.
field, and even flag football field. It was lines were drawn to accommodate. That was the red line, by the way. The red lines was for flag football.
Oh, when we were walking.
Yes.
Oh, okay. It's beautiful.
So it was a very, the school district did a great job, and kudos to the public for supporting that. Just want to say how breathtaking it is to completely see the bay, because they moved the scoreboard from that end to the school side. So, and I know that that they're also working on a public access path behind, which will be completed in 5 years.
What agency is working on that?
But
It's initials, I said.
but it is quite beautiful, though. So thank you to the school board for inviting us to that.
It was really nice. And did you all know that in addition to being a tennis player, Councilmember Daysog ran track, so he ran around that very field. But wow, is it nice now?
Yes.
Yeah, anyway. Just going down the line, yes, you did the athletic field on January the 12th. I attended and spoke at APD swearing in of 2 new officers, and it's always nice they recognize and acknowledge staff for outstanding performance. Last week on the 14th, which was maybe Wednesday, I met with a Girl Scout troop, and they were elementary and middle schoolers, I believe, yeah. They were recipients of gold and silver awards, and it was just really touching to see the projects that they worked on to achieve these awards, and it's always fun doing that. And then later that evening, I went out to Fremont to for Alameda County Mayor's Conference, and our speakers were from BCDC and also Save the Bay. And I think you would all be proud to know that Alameda featured in the slide presentation because we are way out there ahead of other Bay Area communities in our sea level rise protection plans. And Danielle Mueller, our Sustainability and Resilience Coordinator, went to the meeting with me, and it was just very proud to hear us referenced and acknowledged for the work we're doing. So, we are doing, we're setting an example for others. We're working collaboratively with other stakeholders and setting an example. And then this morning, I saw Councilmember Jensen and Assistant City Manager Amy Wooldridge and Lieutenant Ryan Daraspini. We were all on a League of California Cities webinar on e-bike regulations, really eye-opening, and I think there's probably some things we can do in this city, so stay tuned. We're going to get more material but there were over 200 participants from around the state, which is high for a webinar like that. Vice Mayor Pryor.
I did a couple things. I did a CASA cleanup. So they have every month you go to Seaplane Lagoon, and there were so many people there. They ran out of the buckets. I was like, yes. I mean, it was a good problem, and it was a beautiful day. And today I was with you and Councilmember Bullard. We did the pit count training.
That's right, we did.
Because we are going to get up really early on Thursday.
What time are we going to be there, Vice Mayor?
Like, we have to be there by 5, so we have to get
Out at
up by
City Hall West?
4:30. All right, that's it, thanks.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Jensen.
Thank you. And yes, the e-bike forum was quite interesting. I learned a
Wasn't
lot, and I
it?
hope that we can bring some of those things to Alameda.
Did you notice that a lot of the cities were Southern California, like beach towns?
Yeah, I did, and I also thought, we have an opportunity here because we're flat and we have a lot of bikes and we have a lot of bike shops. So I got some of that out of it as well. I thought it was good, but there were some sad stories too about e-bike
Fatalities, yeah.
I want to start, as I mentioned during the discussion of the Zero Waste Implementation Program, I'm currently serving as the chair of the Alameda County Waste Management Board and the Alameda County Recycling Board. These boards are comprised of elected representatives of all Alameda County cities, the Board of Supervisors, and sanitary districts. So thank you, Mayor Ezzy Ashcraft, for appointing me to Stop Waste when I joined the council in 2023, and thanks to Stop Waste colleagues for appointing me as the chair. As the chair, I work closely with the Stop Waste Executive Director, Timothy Burrows, to implement Alameda County's Integrated Waste Management Plan and Hazardous Waste Management Plan. And so I bring this up because we had a recent meeting at Stop Waste, and where staff presented an update on the Plastic Pollution Packaging Producer Responsibility Act of 2022. Say that real fast. And it's made more relevant, the presentation was made even more relevant because our executive director of Stop Waste, Timothy Burrows, is also the chair of the technical task force that's implementing the Plastic Pollution Packaging Producer Responsibility Act. Did you hear that, Laura? See how fast I can.
You can say it twice as fast, just saying.
Timothy's the statewide leader for SB 54, and as I mentioned earlier also, we, CASA and others look to him, as do ZWIP staff and organizations, as a leader in improving waste reduction and improving our environment. So these activities are so important to Alameda and to our next generation, so I was excited to be able to provide and receive input from 3 Brown University students who did an internship recently with CASA with the intent of developing reusable foodware and tenant waste education policy options for Alameda. And you'll hear more about that from me soon. On a more somber note, and in closing, I attended the memorial service for Alameda teacher and activist Gretchen Lippo. Gretchen not only taught a generation of Alameda youth to be politically responsive and socially impactful, she worked on social issues and established 2 of Alameda's enduring public affairs organizations, the Alameda Public Affairs Forum in 2004 and the Center for Global Peace and Democracy. So with that, I want to close my report, and I'll be thinking about Gretchen and all her hard work the day after Martin Luther King Day.
All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you, staff, and members of the public. This meeting is adjourned. It's not even 11 o'clock. Drive safely. Bye-bye.